25. So the fact that it can't stream, just off the record, letting everybody know. Oops. Yeah, I'm sorry. Do I tell them we're ready? We're ready, folks. What's that? You all good? Okay. I'd like to welcome you all out to our school board meeting this evening. We were in closed session, and we'd like to, Superintendent Decker, is there anything to report out of closed session?
Nothing specifically by me, but I believe you have something to report.
Okay, yes. Oh, you're so good. Can we have a roll call first, Jen?
And then Rich Carnation.
Here.
Stephanie Ahmad.
Here.
Bill Adams.
Here.
Jackson Caligari.
Here.
Eric Heights and Malinali Lopez are both absent tonight.
Thank you, Jen. And then, Bill, could you lead us in the flag, please?
With honor.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All righty. We have one item that we'd like to report out of closed session, and that is we have student case 090122. In consideration of student expulsion case 090122, is there a motion for a finding of facts?
Also move.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. And any opposed? No, and absent. So it'd be 3-0-2, and no abstentions. And number two, in consideration of student expulsion case 090122, is there a motion to uphold the principal's recommendation for expulsion?
Also move.
Okay,
Second.
Thank you, Stephanie. Thank you, Bill. Can we have a vote, please? All those in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. No? 0. So the vote is 3-0-2 and 0. This is not a suspended expulsion, and that is the conclusion of this case. Thank you. Alrighty, board members, is there any adjustments to the agenda? I have one, but anybody else? For the public comment session, I'm not sure what the appropriate way to do this is. We had a request from one of our students that would like to make a public comment. She is at her tennis game right now, and I told her that, absolutely, anytime we get the kids to talk, we can work our way around it. So I'm not sure if it's proper to have public comment and then close it, then reopen it, or
Yes.
do we just suspend it?
You have public comment, close it, and then reopen it when she comes.
Okay, very good. So we're going to, after we have it, we'll close it, and I'm going to reopen it later when Lauren gets here for Lauren and Lauren only, because she sent advanced request, and I said that we could do that.
And Jen or Jeremy, do you know Lauren, or does she know to come over and let you know?
I think she
She'll
was
probably
just
be
in
here in
contact with
tennis
Rich.
attire, and so we'll know that it's her.
I asked her, yeah.
You do? Okay, good.
Yeah, Stephanie knows her. I asked her to text us or let us know somehow that she was here. And then after she's here, then we will modify our schedule. So that way she can make the presentation
I
and
would
then go.
recommend we finish the item we're on, and then she's right after.
Exactly. And let me see, that's the only adjustment that I was aware of. Any others? All righty. With that, we will open public comment. Is there anyone here that would like to speak? Let me get my little 3-minute.
Janet Mulligan, sixth grade teacher at Windsor Middle School, and hold on a second. I'm here to talk to you today about sixth grade science camp at our school. It's a tradition. I went, and I'm sure most of you did. I have great memories of it, even though it was a long time ago. I spent a week there at Redwood Glen and Santa Cruz Mountains, and it was $35 for a whole week. But that was a lot of money then, but my parents paid for me. In 2010, state laws were changed to say that students could not be charged to go on field trips. We began asking for donations that year, and until 2020, we were able to raise enough money to cover those costs of those who truly could not afford it. But now, due to COVID and all the financial fallout from it, many students come from families who truly cannot afford to send their kids to camp. The cost is approximately $325 per kid. We have a certain amount of funds to send these kids on a scholarship. But the problem is, no matter what a family's financial circumstances may be, they're not required to pay for their children to do anything, any activities, and this is the cause of our problem. There are many families who can afford the cost, but they don't pay because it's not required to do so. So for the last several years, the district has covered the cost of all those who have not donated, and last year's one-day trips were covered with one-time funds allocated to the school under COVID. But conversations with administration and our business office indicate that the school will not be able to cover the costs this year. It's an expensive trip. It's $280.50 per child, a new charge of $187 per chaperone, $2,700 for round-trip bus transportation with the school district buses, $350 for U-Haul, and then we do $175 for unlimited coffee and tea refills for the chaperones. It's not a necessity, but it's a thank you to them. So based on an estimate of 130 kids and 19 chaperones, the total cost is $43,393. Based on numbers for previous years, we expect to raise about half from family donations. So I'm here to ask you for help, financial help, to send all of our sixth graders to camp. They've missed out on a lot in the last couple of years. They didn't get to go to the Bouverie or the Marine Mammal Center, any of the traditional trips. And I don't want them to miss out on this trip. So thank you for any help you can give to us.
Can I ask when's camp? When is camp?
It's scheduled for March 6th through 8th, 2023.
So I think at the end, we could potentially talk about future agenda items, or, you know,
Yeah, that was the question I was going to ask Janet, and I did go to the science camp with my kids, maybe with all three of them. And since it's in the spring, we cannot take any action or discuss it amongst ourselves because it's not agendized, but I think we should look at this. It may well be that this particular trip, and it is large, and it is expensive, and it is valuable, may be one of several at different schools or different grades that are similarly situated, and I would ask maybe through the chair and Jeremy that we see if we can assemble those so that we can get it on our agenda to look at, what those shortfalls are kind of across the board and figure out what we might be able to do. But thank you for bringing this up.
Thank you. Yeah, I put my paperwork into the board packet, and it should be in there tonight, the field trip packet.
I don't think it's in there. It got pulled out
Nope.
because we couldn't meet the funds.
Okay. So, well, thank you very much.
Okay,
Thank you,
all right,
Janet.
thank you.
Is there anyone else that would like to address the board at this time? All right, not seeing that, we will close public comment. And now we will move on to our 3.3, report from student board member Jackson.
Yeah, so this is a presentation that's accompanied with a slideshow presentation, so I will begin once we pull that up. I don't have the clicker, so I'll just kind of say, and then hopefully somebody can get me to the next slide. I will say, okay, so yeah, this week's presentation is on Lady Jag Bowl, or this month's presentation, I suppose. I know it's a favorite of the board, and it's nice to do an event that I can kind of attend to actually be there, but then also be able to present before it happens. So I attended a couple of practices they're filming for the video bulletin. Thank you. And the actual event is tomorrow, so people that are watching that may have not known about it or weren't totally sure about going, definitely go. Very, very fun. $5 per person, or families of 4 or more, it's just a $20 payment. So quick overview. We can't see those quotes all that. Oh, no, that's okay. I can read them on this screen. So Lady Jagbull is a girls' powder puff flag football game. So previously it's been just juniors versus seniors. This year it was expanded to have a freshman versus sophomore game as well. That's probably going to be the thing we talk about most in this presentation because it's a pretty big thing. In addition to the 9th and 10th grade game, they also added a boys cheer performance, which actually was organized entirely by one of the sophomores at the school, Madison Jaffe, who's worked on it since her freshman year. Leadership has these semester projects where you plan something that you want to execute in the coming year, and she's been planning it since then. So good on her for actually getting that out. It's a pretty good size crew, actually. It was really interesting to see. I went to one of the practices, one of the unofficial practices, and was trying to interview some of the people that were doing it. Madison gave a really nice answer about how she's been planning it for a while. And then I talked to one of the boys who was doing it. They thought they were the best person there, and they said that the cheerleaders, they all said that, but this was the easiest quote to use. And they said the cheerleaders were doing a really good job of instructing them, and then they kind of looked at a cheerleader and looked back at me and said kindly. So I'm sure it's great. I'm sure it's great. From a student perspective, it's a really fun event. It happens every year. People are super excited about it. One thing is the senior team's actually pretty small this year, and the junior team is very, very big. A lot of people are predicting the juniors will win for the first time in a long time, as far as I've seen the event going on. But if the district is really, really strapped for funds, I think we can get about $20 from each senior to kind of nudge it in their direction. I think that we can, because I know the school board, refs. So if we want to get a couple extra, we might be able to do that. And of course, the big thing is the 9-10 game. A lot of the upperclassmen don't love it because it's always been viewed as this sort of rite of passage. Like, you look forward to it in your freshman and sophomore years, and then you're really, really excited once you finally get to 11th grade and can do it. I think that I'll talk about it more on this slide. And the 9th and 10th grade teams are not very big. They're barely fielding a team as it is. They're probably both about 10 people. To be perfectly frank, I think some maybe are a little bit scared of some backlash that they're getting from older students about doing it, because it is that rite of passage where, like, you're not supposed to do this until you're 11th and 12th grader. But I think a lot of this comes from the fact that just it's been done in the past as 11-12. Give it a year, 2 years, 3 years, and people will forget that it was ever 11-12, and it'll become a 9-10, 11-12 event, and that's totally normal. Emma Smith is the senior class president, as well as somebody who's pretty involved in Lady Jagbull. So this is a very kind of leadership perspective. It's kind of what Ms. Whiteley told us to say. But basically, as time goes on, the hesitancy from upperclassmen about having a underclassmen game will go away, and I think that if we just stick with it, it won't be a problem. Hopefully, people that do it in 9th and 10th don't get tired of it by 11-12, because it's always nice to have those big teams. But on the bright side, they'd probably be a lot better by the time they got to 11-12 if they had done it in 9th and 10th. So I think that, the first year, maybe the second year will be a little bit tough as a transition period, but past that, it should be really, really easy to execute both events. And its main goal is as a fundraiser, so the more events that we have, the more money we can raise. So all in all, good thing that we've expanded it. I don't think I have another slide, so that is the end of my presentation. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you, Jackson. I need you to pay attention down a little bit further in the agenda. There's on the, we have where we're talking about the board governance handbook. There's a section in there about graft and paying officials and things, so it's, if we're going to jail, we're not going for 20. So
We're going for more.
just, we have standards. Anyhow, thank you, Jackson, appreciate it. I believe, yes, so I would like to take a half a step back, if we could, and go back and open public comment back up for one special person, Lauren, and if you would like to come up, are you ready, or would you like us to wait a minute? Come on. Right there at the little dais.
Speak into the microphone.
Okay. Esteemed members of the board, cabinet, and community, my name is Lauren Fields, and it is my distinct privilege to address the school board this evening. As a current senior at Windsor High School and a 13-year byproduct of Windsor schools, I have been fortunate to be able to learn and thrive with wonderful classmates and peers over the years, all from diverse backgrounds and perspectives that have helped inform my worldview and ultimately my purpose. Like all of you, I have come to understand that diversity is a strength, and ensuring that there's a safe and consistent space for students to be themselves or find themselves has become a top priority of mine as a Windsor High School student. As a result, last year, when we all came back to campus from the pandemic, I founded Windsor High's first multicultural club, a place where students from all grade levels, all economic backgrounds, all social context, and all identities can come together and learn and share about each other's unique perspectives, traditions, and rich histories that make up the diversity of our school and community. Right now, we're a 30-student club, and we're growing. And we've already hosted the first multicultural day at Windsor High School. And we look forward to doing more to bring our school community closer together post-pandemic and in the years ahead. I'm here tonight not only as a half-Korean, half-white Cali grad who's searching to find my own unique cultural identity for most of my life, but as a representative of a growing cohort of young people in Windsor schools who are eager for your support, your engagement in this work, and your leadership in helping more students and more cultures be seen across campuses. The truth is, we've only just begun our work celebrating diversity and honoring multiculturalism, and we're looking for as many allies as possible to help spread this message and help students find values in themselves. If I may, I'd love to invite you to an upcoming multicultural club meeting during our lunch hour in Mr. Brandt's classroom, as well as to our end of year multicultural day celebration on the quad. And if it's all right with you, I brought some brochures with more information about our club and our unity efforts. So if I'm able, I would love to approach the dais and leave you with some materials. Thank you so much from the bottom of my heart for everything you guys do to support our schools and our learning community. We would love to host you guys at an upcoming multicultural events. So here's some information.
That'd be great. Just, if you could, where is this going to be at again?
This is at the high school.
No, I know you said a room.
Oh, this is in D110, Mr. Brandt's classroom.
110.
Fridays at lunch, and it's all on the flyer.
Very good. We can't really comment about your
all
stuff,
good.
but later we can. And
Okay, sound good.
I mean,
Since you talk about what your graft level was,
well,
I'll go ahead and comment.
the book says $50. We have to report anything after 50.
Just stop talking, man.
I'm just kidding.
Thank you for coming. You're going to come up in a second.
Yeah.
Not yet. No, I'm going to comment on your comments. So thank you very much for taking the time to come. I know
Okay,
you're
thank
busy,
you.
and we're always proud. You came right after Jackson, and seeing two of our student leaders who are seniors at the high school is always encouraging for us. I will also say I never really worry about two students who are like you and Jackson. I worry about those kids who sit by themselves on the picnic benches and people don't know who they are, right? And those are, to me, the ones we want to reach out to. The comment I wanted to make and kind of get your nod, if it's all right, we are meeting here next week with the town council. We periodically have joint meetings. And if it's all right with you, I would like to make sure we have flyers, and Jeremy can give them to John Davis, the town manager. And we'll also share with the members of the town council, several of whom I think, if not all of them, may be very interested in coming over and participating with your efforts. So thank you for your leadership on that.
Of course.
Great. Excuse me, sir. Could you somehow open that door, keep it open? Because a couple people, I think, tried to get in and they couldn't. Is there a way to put a doorstop or something so it'll Oh, it does? Okay, thank you. Come on, you can bring out. Do you guys meet once a month, or what is your, every week?
Yes, so come on.
Very good.
Well, thank you for being here. Thanks for the materials, and I look forward to attending some events.
So how did the game go?
Today we lost.
We what?
We lost today.
I don't even know what that word means.
Lauren, when is the end of year event? Do you have a date for that yet?
It's going to be sometime in October. We don't have an exact date yet, but I will keep you.
Did you say the end?
Oh, so end of the calendar year event. Yeah.
Oh,
Got
okay.
it.
All right, thank you.
And I can mention it before it happens too, hopefully,
Good.
if it's after the next meeting, but we'll see.
Good. Well, thank you for your leadership and taking the time to come.
Yeah,
good to see
thanks. We know it took extra effort to get here, and we all appreciate it. So thank you.
If you're not doing nothing, you can stay the next couple hours while we talk about the budget, too. Yeah,
All righty, so then,
thank you.
all right. Moving back ahead to 3.4 Superintendent's Report. Jeremy?
Yeah, so actually, I feel like I'm stealing thunder right now, but I'm going to say it anyway, because the Sonoma County Arts Education Alliance shared artwork from our Migrant Education Arts Integrated Summer School. And it's the second year of the program, so I'm actually going to stop since you're here and let you really do the talking on this, but just know that we're pretty cool. We're also plugging along with our facilities master plan. In fact, Rich was in attendance at a meeting we held last week, and in it, we considered 4 different areas that we're focused on. And one was deferred maintenance, another one was campus parity, which really means the way our schools look and function and being at a certain standard. Also, we talked a lot about early education, mostly transitional kindergarten. And then we also discussed maximizing our assets and really talking a lot about Windsor Creek. And what rose to the top was we don't have adequate facilities for our transitional kindergarten. There's an item later on where you guys are going to consider potentially setting some money aside to make sure that we can address those needs. But we had a lot of conversation around that at the Facilities Master Plan Committee meeting. Our next meeting, we're getting monopoly money, and people are going to be putting money toward the projects that they think are most important in our district. So we're getting closer to the end of having this document done, and we're hoping to have something in front of you by January. And then we continue to work on our pillars of organizational excellence. Recently had a meeting with our principals to really go through and fine-tune our measures that matter, which are reflective of the definitions of success that I've shared before. And we're hoping to finalize those in quotation marks so that we can get them to the sites to review and consider and to fine-tune. Also, there was a post on Facebook that I thought we should talk about, because I'm just going to read it. So this is from Ars Gonzalez, post on the Windsor Families Facebook page. Grateful. Yesterday afternoon, I made a SOS post requesting a donation of 1 ton of Sonoma County Zinfandel grapes for the Windsor High School Viticulture Vineyard Program. As most of you know, harvest season is well underway, and this was a very late, last-minute request. Fortunately, Jared Stein, owner of Windsor Winery Notre Vu Estate Wine Group, hopefully I said that right, saw the post and promptly replied. I'm excited to share that the Windsor High School Viticulture Vineyard Program will be getting a donation of 1 ton of grapes from Notre Vu Estate. This donation will allow the WHS students to make these grapes into wine, a tradition that has been happening each year for over 10 years. Further, the WHS students will have the opportunity to visit the property and handpick these grapes. Please join me in thanking Jared Stein for his quick response and extreme generosity. Further, the next time you're looking, well, I don't know if I should read that part, but I think the point of this is that we should be appreciative for Jared for what he did for our school district. So Jared, wherever you are, thank you very much for helping out our students. That's the end of my report.
All right, thank you. Just a little context. I know the family really well. Jared's dad passed away just recently. His name is Bob Stein. I've known him for 30 years. He's a next door neighbor, property-wise. They have 710 acres. It's a beautiful vineyard up there. He actually has a different business in Long Beach, but the vineyard's kind of a thing of love that they have. And so Jared and his mom, they're still working it. And the thing that I like about what they're doing is not just the donation, but they're going to bring the kids out there and they get to get hands-on. And this is just the start. I have a feeling that they are going to, they're very generous people. And they have big hearts, and I have a feeling this might be just the first step into a great relationship between Windsor school districts and their family and a lot of things. And so their business is more of a passion than it is a business. So I expect to see a lot of, I wouldn't be surprised, I don't mean expect, I wouldn't be surprised to see a great amount of goodwill that keeps coming from them towards the district and the kids that are interested in that avenue. So we're lucky. We have our great little town, and we're surrounded by a lot of wonderful people that sometimes folks forget when they read some of the little tidbits that some disgruntled folks have. So we're very blessed.
Agreed.
All righty. Moving to 3.5, staff reports. We have anything to report from our wonderful folks?
They were doing a Rochambeau of who had to come up first. Well played, Gonzalez.
I was actually pushing Laura to get up here, and she said, "You go first." Brad Freeland, CSEA chapter president. We had our chapter meeting last night, and one of the most difficult things about everything that we deal with is politics. And we were blessed by having all of the school board candidates come and speak to our membership last night. So I want to graciously thank all of the candidates who came and for speaking their hearts about why they're running for school board. Our members heard, and at this time, we're not going to endorse anybody because unfortunately we didn't have enough people show up. But and we did have a Zoom hybrid, but I want to thank the candidates for coming, and please, all I can say, no matter what happens, please vote in November.
Thanks, Brad.
Not that tall. Hi, good evening, board members, cabinet. I'm Laura Gonzalez. I'm the new president of the Windsor District Educators Association, and this is my first meeting. I tried to come to the last one, but I couldn't find a parking place, but my trustworthy vice president was here. And I don't really have much to say except that I think we've gotten off to a great start. I'm enjoying working, especially with Jeremy and Pete. They've been very helpful, and I think we have a good rapport, so I'm very pleased with that. I think we've gotten off to a pretty good start. And I want to give a shout out to all the teachers who are covering other classes, because subs is still an issue, and understand that this is probably going to be an issue for a while. And so we're giving our time and our energy to cover for our colleagues who can't be there. So I want to give them a shout out. And I also want to give a shout out to, at least at my site, I'm at the middle school, to our janitors who are picking up slack, because we have one on vacation. So Veronica's there working diligently. She's awesome. We have some awesome people. So thank you, and that's it.
Thanks, Laura.
And just for both, thank you, one, for taking the time to come and be part of the partnership here between the governance team and our two labor groups. The second thing is, you probably saw above the fold on page 4 or 7 of the Press Democrat, one of our sister districts over in the Valley is going on strike. Never has either of these labor leaders sold their members short in negotiations. What struck me in that article, and I do not know the people, I know a couple of the board members, is how they seem to be talking at each other rather than, or about each other rather than with each other. And thank you that our conversations and our relationships between management and labor, your teachers and your classified members, is talking together about solutions. And I think we've all had good outcomes for that, and most importantly, our students and their families have had good outcomes for that. So I really appreciate that. We have talked, and thank you, Brad. I understand it came up. We've talked more about how to formalize and really make sure we recognize and celebrate both our teachers and our classified staff. I have a funny one about a friend of mine who's a teacher at Cali who had about 7 pictures in the Press Democrat a few weeks ago, but we're going to work on getting better at that, because I think that is something that also is, it's it doesn't cost any money, and it's a gesture of culture, which I think we can really support and is part of our shared values. So I just wanted to share that with you because I sometimes go to other school district meetings, and sometimes the labor representatives aren't there, and if they are there, it's not particularly cordial because it's pretty clear if you're in the audience that they don't talk to each other, right? And that's not our case here. And so thank you very much for that.
So Brad, you can report back that the folks that were in attendance last night, they heard what they heard. And so anyhow, very good. Thanks, Bill. All right, moving to 3.6, Board of Trustee report. Is there any reports? Okay. Joel.
First. Okay, so I was thinking through what I've done since the last meeting and what to report on, and there are a lot of different things going on, but I think we're on the topic of recognition tonight, so I wanted to talk a little bit about that because we've been thinking really about recognizing different things, from donations that come into our district to our staff, both classified and certificated, and anyone else. I think there's another category of folks. Not sure how many of those we have. But we want to just make sure that we're making that a consistent practice. And so I thought a first step is just to say it out loud. Then you're held accountable because you've said it in front of other people. So I'm doing that tonight. And I want to recognize a few people who are here at the table with us who we haven't gotten a chance to recognize yet. Sharon and Pete, you just started in these positions, and our meetings have gone off without a hitch. Things have gone so well this year. I just wanted to take a minute to recognize both of you for like stepping into these new roles, and it seems like you've been in them already. Like there's no transition. Like it's just you're doing the work. So thank you. And then also want to recognize Austin, who magically appeared in Sonoma County and provided budget services when no one other district could find one. So he's our budget fairy in the most positive sense. I think fairies are amazing. But literally appeared from Southern California, totally has become a Sonoma County person, and we're just so lucky to have you as well. Yeah, and well, Jen's here too, so I'll just recognize Jen. You do so much. We love working with you. So start with the group immediately in front of us, but then we've got to move out and recognize everyone, and we've got to make it a practice. So that's what we'll do. And I recognize Jeremy all the time, so you're good. Because I talk to him the most. Thanks.
Go ahead. Age before beauty.
Okay, I got two. One serious, and then one is celebrating my friend Sean Gilbertson from Cali-Calmeca Language Academy. This is Banned Book Week. I'm going to read 3 excerpts from yesterday's Press Democrat editorial, written by Jim Sweeney, Judy Coffey, and Mick Menendez, the 2 community members. This is Banned Book Week, and censorious instincts are on the rise in America. Political, moral, and social activities have stepped up their efforts to silence ideas they dislike. About halfway down, continues, literal book burning is rare today. Instead, people show up at libraries and school boards. They demand that books be taken off the shelves. Often it is in the name of protecting children from some perceived dangerous idea. And that's the important thing to recognize. Book bans aren't really about books, they're about ideas. Ideas that people dislike, disagree with, and believe no one should think. And it closes with this paragraph. Banning books is the inferior solution of the weak who fear that they cannot convince other people to think their way with reason and better ideas. This Ban Books Week, visit your local library or school or its website and check out a book that challenges the way you think. So, thank you for letting me read that. And my able assistant here, you can hold it on the back of this. For those of you who do get the Press Democrat, on September 7th, above the fold on the front page were several pictures. These are 3 from inside the article of Sean Gilbertson, who's a 5th grade teacher at Cali. I like it very much because he's giving a Vulcan high five here. They called it a Star Trek high five, but he's giving the peace and long life. And plus he's wearing a cool cowboy cat riding on a shark. But what the article was about was second career teachers and credentials and getting filled with teachers and some of the backfills that Laura was talking about. And I just wanted to celebrate for a second. And interestingly enough, there's a picture of Maya Angelou in his classroom at Cali, 5th grade. And the quote that's on there, striking to me, it says, "History, despite its wrenching pain, cannot be unlived, but if faced with courage, need not be lived again." So thank you, Sean. I had actually emailed him and texted him. I coached soccer some years ago with Sean, and he still has one kid over at the high school. And kudos to, again, for celebrating both our classified members and a new second career teacher. He's been teaching for 3 years. It is just so cool when, there were about 5 pages of him, and his big face was on half the front page on the day that they celebrated it, of him sharing the joy that I hope you guys can see in these pictures with his 5th grade students over at Cali Calmecca. So thank you very much.
All righty. Thank you both very much. We're going to need to move to 3.7, approval of minutes from June 30th, July 20th, and August 18th. Can I have a motion, or is there any question, discussion?
I'll move to approve.
All righty, second?
I'll second.
All righty, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so that'd be 3-0, 1 and 1.
Two
No,
and one.
3-0, 2-1. Yep, 2 plus 1. There you go. And Jen, I just want you to know I appreciate you fixing all of my clerical errors and making me look really good in the minutes later. So thank you very much. All righty, moving on to 4.0, the consent items. Bill, if you would like to take these on, that'd be great.
I would. Consent action items numbers 4.1 through 4.18 are listed on the agenda. I have not heard of any that we need to pull or any that anyone has any conflicts on. So I would make a motion that the board approves with a single vote consent items 4.1 through 4.18 as listed.
I'd make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Okay. Is there any public?
Any public comment on the consent items? Seeing none, we'll bring it back to the board. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, 3, 0, 2 plus 1. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Bill. Moving to section 5, we'll go to 5.1, Summer School 2022 report for the Migrant Education Summer School, Elementary School, and High School Summer School. This will be presented by Sharon.
I'm actually just introducing, so the first presentation is going to be for the Migrant Ed Summer School, and we have the principal, Robin Fletcher.
Good evening and thank you. I am Robin Fletcher. I am a 3rd grade teacher at Cali Calmecca, but tonight I'm here as the principal of our summer school program. It was the 2nd year of our collaboration with I Aspire. The migrant education program has been going strong at Cali Calmecca and in the district for years. And then this was the 2nd year with I Aspire, and my 2nd year as the principal. I Aspire came to the district in 2018. Most, if not all, teachers, TK to 5th grade, were trained that year, well, in 2019, and then we went back to the classroom. The program was going strong. We were implementing the arts integration strategies, so taking our existing curriculum and spicing them up with various visual and performing arts. Hugely engaging, really successful strategies. And then we kind of hit a hiccup in 2020 when we went on distance learning. And so the program suffered a bit, but many of the strategies, they're very powerful and they're still being used in classrooms. And one place where they're still very much going strong is in our summer school program. And we had many returning teachers, many returning staff members that worked with me over at Brooks this summer in June. Guessing this is the next one. There we go. Here is the breakdown. We had 4 classes. 3 of them were taught in Spanish and 1 in English. We had a TKK, 1, 2, and 3, 4, 5, and then a very wide, luckily not too high of a number, but a wide range from 2nd all the way up to 7th grade with Maestra Sevilla. And so wonderful teachers, amazing staff. We also had our fantastic returning secretary, who is Juanita Cedeño, who's over at the middle school now. We served 60 students from our migrant ed population. Many of them have been returning year after year. It's a wonderful family environment. And we were very ambitious academically this year. We undertook 2 different writing genres. And we did it with our TK kids all the way up to our 7th grader. And we did it with a focus in informational writing and then in math word problems. Yeah, it was very ambitious and it was amazing. These teachers really delivered for these students and they thrived. We'll see some data in just a moment. We were also collaborating with wonderful VAPA facilitator Elizabeth Robertson. This was her 2nd year again with this program. She led some PD with us in the beginning of the program with our teachers and then was there on campus. Her classroom is at Brooks, so we were able to go in for some music. Music and dance, and she led the students in our cultural pride lessons. Migrant Ed has a focus each summer on self and cultural pride lessons, and so she was able to lead each class for a couple of weeks. Here is our TK class. That missing square there, that's our video. Won't be able to see our video, but we participated with our TK class, TK Kinder, doing stop motion video. So each of them did their recording and they wrote about an animal and they had they created a little figure and their animals go across using stop motion and they all end up in this little jungle party. It was adorable and they loved it and they were practicing their writing and their presentation skills and also this technology skill of stop motion. And Maestra Risky, she was a 30-year veteran of the district, and this was her hurrah. This was her last hurrah. So we were very proud to have her as a teacher.
Before you change it,
Oh,
what
the
grade-
video.
that cute little girl with the $1 million smile.
Oh my gosh, Abby.
What grade is she in?
She's in kindergarten.
Oh my
No,
golly.
she's in 1st grade now. She was in kinder, now she's in 1st.
Good.
And there's Carla. I can't tell who's in the middle right now.
She's got a future in TV or something.
Oh, she's amazing. She's amazing. And everybody, yeah, she's a magnet of love, yes, and she puts it out, and yeah. Let's see. I don't know if the video will play it popped up, but it didn't play. Here we have our 1st, 2nd, 3rd grade class. This was a huge class of 22 students, which is big for summer school. Maestra Garcia was a rock star. She was teaching kind of at 3 different levels. There they are doing their dance at the final presentation. Amazing work doing addition with kind of within 1 to 20 and then up to through 100. That was with the 1st graders and then up through 100 with the middle group, and then the highest group was doing multiplication. And we also did a video, stop motion video that let's see, probably won't play, but they were using different manipulatives to show their addition or their multiplication problems. And it was the integration of that art using technology and art throughout the program. That was so amazing. Here is our 4th and 5th grade class with Maestra Hurtado. The girls down in the bottom corner are doing some work with self-portrait. Maestra Hurtado used a flashlight and they did like a tracing of their profiles and then they filled it with all of these adjectives describing themselves and then read poems that went with them. They're on the wall behind the girls. Actually, they painted inside. They had the adjectives on the outside. And they're on the wall behind the class there. And there's her presentation, her video, reading the poems. Here is our English strand. So this is our from 2nd grade all the way to 7th grade. We took on a 7th grader who didn't kind of fit into any certain category, like he couldn't go to the, Adelante, yes. So he didn't fit into any certain category, so we said, come on over. His brother was there in that class, so he thrived. He did really well. And they did also number stories with multiplication, and they have a couple of videos as well. And we got to visit the garden. Brooks has a beautiful garden, and the students were there observing insects and plants. Again, so one of the main pieces every summer is the cultural pride piece, and we did the music and dance. The students sang and they danced at our end of the year exposition. You can see it's there in the multipurpose room at Brooks. Exposición 2022. All of the families showed up. We had music, we had food, we had amazing art. In 3 short weeks, they filled that NPR with beautiful works of art, sculpture, work with pastels and paints and writing and their videos. It was really impressive, and the families love it. It's a great time. Here are some quotes from some of the teachers, and it really, each of the quotes, I won't go through each of them, but they all talk about the engaging effects and value of arts integration. I've been an iAspire lead teacher at Cali since they came in 2018, and I'm so in love with this program. I'll be doing it every summer as long as I can, and they're wonderful families. But back to the arts integration, I really would like to make a push for iAspire and arts integration throughout the district. And I know, Elizabeth, we still meet with lots of teachers regularly to keep the strategies going, and I just want to give it a big nod. Here we have our attendance by class, and I thought this was an interesting data point to include because it shows how popular our program is. Our students, the dark blue is who had 3 or fewer absences. Our students showed up, and that was the biggest kind of appreciation of our program. They didn't want to miss. They wanted to be there in the summer at summer school. And we had a student show up on the last day who had just gone to a dentist appointment, but his mom said, no, he really wanted to come. He had to be here for the exposition. So I thought that was a great accolades. And then we have our academic success. So this is our pre and our post assessment. The light blue is the pre, and then our post assessment. I included both the kind of language arts and math all together. And it's the percentage of students that passed, or that got 70% or higher. And at first, they weren't understanding, or they hadn't been introduced to how to write number stories, or weren't challenged with high levels of informational text. And then through 3 weeks of working with these amazing teachers and with these engaging arts integrated lessons, they had huge success. So we, as Jeremy mentioned before, we had our mention in the Sonoma Arts Coalition. There we go. Thank you. That was a really wonderful mention for us and a nod to the wonderful work that we're doing. So thank you so much. It was my pleasure to be here. And we look forward to being here next year talking about this program again.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
A lot of wonderful things in your presentation, but I want to make sure I take this opportunity because, and I want to ask Bill to help me out on this a little bit, because you kind of spearheaded this a little bit. But in November, not that we're going to talk about elections and all those other things, but in November, there is a measure or a ballot, I'm not sure.
It's a ballot measure.
It's a ballot measure
28.
that is going to, if it passes, it takes 1% of the state's budget, if I understand it correctly, and chime in for sure. I want to make sure it gets right. But we need, if we want in our district to have more and more arts programs, there's a potential for us to get a pretty good influx of money from the state that will be now part of the whole ongoing program that will be arts funded. And so, like all great programs, sometimes things can excel or status quo, what have you. Sometimes they can fade away because of funding issues. And so everyone recognizes, I don't know if everyone does, but I think most everyone does recognize that these things are really valuable for the kids. And anything that we can get in the way of financial help would be great. And so for people to become more aware of it, I don't know what's proper, how to do all that stuff. I'm not sure if we should be publicly involved in those kind of things. I don't know, but it just kind of came to my mind. I was thinking like, this might be just a good time to kind of bring it up again, that we have an opportunity, if we all vote a certain, on that one measure, that we could get a percent of the state's budget every year going towards specifically arts programs. So I don't know if a lot of people knew about it, so hopefully maybe,
Which measure is it? Did you say
go ahead.
Yeah, it's measure 28.
28?
The one after the two competing Indian gaming measures, 26 and 27, that, and last month, we, within the bounds that, as a public agency, we do it, we passed a resolution in support of Proposition 28. So let's talk to school and college legal services to find out whether the principals, for example, could put that in their electronic newsletters. I think they probably could as a matter of information. But certainly with you and everyone you know and every student and every parent that, but yeah, so it would be, what's the 1%? 500,000, Austin, thereabouts?
Yeah, I estimated 400,000 to 600,000, so we went with 500,000.
Is what our districts would probably
Correct.
receive.
Sustainable $500,000
Correct.
going forward. And I wanted to actually shout you out. I sit as one of the education members of Creative Sonoma, which is the county's economic development board's arts support organization, like to support performing arts and professional artists and teaching artists. And there's an Arts Education Alliance component of that. And we are the only place that does something like academic, social, emotional, cultural skills through music, dance, theater, visual arts, and media arts integration. And I know that you were there at those very first trainings that we did that one summer. And when you were talking about those 4th and 5th graders, here is one showing Jackson. It's a big deal to get the monthly shout out of all the arts activities happening in the county of Sonoma. This was the one that was highlighted for the month of September, what you did over the summer. So thank you and all your students. I also really like that chart of their performance, those little ones, the TK and the 1, 2, 3s, about how they double and tripled their competencies rolling into the new school year. So tremendous arts, and I think maybe some of that, or a large part of that, is that arts integration joy. They come because school is interesting and fun, and they also learn along the way. So thanks for all your work.
My pleasure. Thank you.
And by
Thank you for your time.
just to make sure everyone understands, that's not a new tax, that's not anything. It's just focusing what they already have towards a really worthwhile program. So anyhow, for those friends of mine at home that are listening and going, what did you just say? So anyhow, thank you.
I'll just say, great job. Oh, you can go. But as you're walking away, I'll just say, great job. And I just wanted to say my colleagues covered everything. So I totally agree with what they had to say. Thanks for raising what you did. And awesome presentation.
Thanks.
Thank
Okay,
you,
we'll
Robin.
bring it back to Sharon.
Yes, so the next presentation is for the Language Arts and Math Summer School for elementary. The principal was Shannon Viemeyer. She couldn't be here tonight because she's ill. So Allison Griggs is stepping in to save the day.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me. So we're going, oh, perfect. So as mentioned, Shannon Viemeyer was the principal for this program. And we had,
Go ahead.
you doing okay now?
Nope,
Still
we can still
echoing.
hear echo. Welcome.
Think we're okay? Better? Okay, great. So this year for our summer school program for language arts and math, we had students in the incoming grades for 1st through 6th grade. And we identified students that would need support in both language arts and math for this. And in addition, we also had a large number of students that would need support in language development. And so we tried to incorporate all of that and bring back a program similar to what we've had in the past, while also incorporating social emotional support in the form of morning meetings and closing circles. And so Shannon was able to lead this team in supporting students with their academics, and then we also were able to support teachers with professional development that we'll look at in just a minute. We had 4 teachers this year, and combined grade levels. In addition to having Shannon Viemeyer as the principal, we were also able to bring back a previous student. Fatima was a student with us in Windsor Unified, and she was our administrative assistant and also our bilingual liaison. Each day, students were able to show up at 8:30 in the morning. There was an opportunity for free breakfast, and instruction started at 9. Dismissal was at 1 o'clock, but just before that, students were released to get a lunch, either in person or grab and go, before being picked up or heading out on the bus. Speaking of buses, we're fortunate to be able to provide transportation. Many of our families have said that their students wouldn't be able to join if we didn't have transportation opportunities. So most of our students were able to take the bus, and that definitely impacts our attendance. We had 69 students total. You can see that 80% of those students are Hispanic. If you total these up, it is just over 100% because some of our students are dually identified. They identify with more than one race. Of those 69 students, 52 are English learners. And so we also focused a lot of our attention on integrated ELD supports in those 4 domains of language development: speaking, listening, reading, and writing. And that's also where we focused a lot of our professional learning time with our teachers. So we were able to have a consultant and coach on campus with us to provide professional learning every morning from 8 o'clock to 8:50, and then provide in-class coaching with the staff. So really this program's kind of twofold. We're trying to support students with their academics, and we're also helping teachers build their toolbox for how to support their students with not only intervention, but ELD as well. As I mentioned, language arts was one of our primary programs that we focused on. Students were identified based on their need according to teacher input, and then also data from our iReady results that students took the assessment in the spring. And then the programs we used were Rigby Gilly Literacy, which is a newer program to us we're hoping to be able to consistently use year after year, and Read 180, which we've used for intervention in this district and also has an English language arts component.
Allison, before you go on, I love that picture second from the left where those 2 students are with their headphones on in a quiet, good isolated space, small enough to be under the counter, using a chair for their...
Flexible seating.
Yeah.
So for language arts, we focused on comprehension as an area to track for pre and post assessment. This is based on student comprehension rates of growth from their assessment at the beginning of the month to the end of the month. You can see that kindergartners had the largest growth margin of 31%. We also focused on math support with the same kind of identification for students in need. And then also we had one of our math TOSAs, Jenny Anaya, was able to create lessons and assessments really targeted on what students were performing at based on the iReady and focus those standards for students so that we could really address areas of need. And then overall, we saw about 33% average growth from pre to post in math, again with kindergarten being the largest margin for growth. So ultimately, we had a lot of really great teacher feedback, but one of the things that I think stood out to me for this program was parents' interest not just in the academic support, but also the routine of going to school and having a place for students to go, especially post-distance learning, to be in the habit of attending school, and the social emotional component of having a morning meeting and a closing circle, and just the summer school opportunity. And the other benefit of this is we ran this program in July, and migrant education was in June, so that migrant students that qualified for both could attend both programs. And I think lastly, she just had some photos of student work and staff work during professional learning. Okay. That's all I have. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for stepping in, Allison. For you and Sharon, I'd be interested, I don't want to do a lot of make work, but maybe at the halfway through the year or towards the end of the year, kind of getting the anecdotal feedback, looking at like that kinder surge in math, just to find out, for example, students that were able to avail themselves for both the Migrant Ed period in June and the program you were talking about in July, particularly if they're not like kinder or first, but they're students who've been in our district for a little while, to get what kind of feedback we get from their teacher and how they're doing this year in school. And I know, there's the assessments that can tell us that, and that's, to me, is part of the story. But I think also some of these students may really have, if you've shared, really flourished in the social emotional learning. And I'd just be interested to kind of get that snapshot feedback if we could. However, it doesn't have to be with charts and graphs. I just, kind of just get the validation to me that this investment that we do bears fruit sometimes for our students that may need it the most. And I believe it does, but I think this gives us a good way to follow up and circle back around on that. Thanks.
Thanks for filling in and putting on the presentation for us. And then Shannon, if you're at home listening, and thank you for the work you did this summer. Hope you feel better. And we missed you having here, but Allison did a great job filling in. Thank you.
And Rich asked me if I was going to say anything, and I didn't have my mic on, so I kind of tricked him because he was like, okay, you're not speaking. But thanks for filling in, and I just had a thought, just totally taking this from Bill, but I think it would be interesting when we do get the data, just to make sure that we do pull out and show separately the data for the students who've done the summer school programs. I think that would be really interesting, just to look at how that impacts their scores as they progress. So if we could do that.
Thank you, Allison. Okay, last but not least is the high school summer school program, which Catherine Mirabali, the principal, is here to present.
Thank you.
It should be, Catherine, that should be up there. I don't know why it's not.
Oh, the slides.
Yeah, there we go.
Okay. I'm Catherine Mirabali. I'm currently the program coordinator for independent study for the Windsor Unified School District. This summer, I had the great opportunity of being the summer school principal for our credit recovery high school program. In the program, it was Windsor High School, North Bay Met Academy, and Windsor Oaks Academy students. Our primary focus was that there were 148 students that were served, grades 9 through 11, from July 5th through July 29th. There's also a senior diploma completion program that started on June 7th through July 29th. Students were able to earn credits towards their high school transcripts, and both programs used our Edgenuity curriculum. So our Edgenuity platform is run through Clever, our Clever portal, and students can take any classes that are needed to recover lost credits. So seniors were enrolled in all the courses they needed in order to graduate. There was no limit for them. Students 9 through 11 were kind of spoon-fed, if you will, the other courses that they needed, and once they completed those, they were able to work on other courses. Courses are accessible 24/7, so they could work at night, on the weekends, early in the morning, and they could also earn up between 1 through 10 credits per subject. So they could do a year's worth of English at their own pace, meaning they could get online at night and on the weekends to really get those credits. And the platform is also customized to students' academic needs. So if there's somebody that has an IEP or 504, then we were able to accommodate their needs with that. Our graduates for 2022, we had 23 senior students that were invited. 14 of them participated. 8 of those students completed the AB 130 graduation units, meaning they were able to take advantage of the 130 credits that were given last school year for seniors, and they were able to receive their diplomas. And the seniors earned 106 total credits. So that was huge in credit recovery. Mr. LaFay was the one that oversaw the high school seniors, so he was case managing them and supporting them throughout the summer. So congratulations to those seniors. I know we're on the heels of, the last 4 years of crazy, so we're trying to get everyone up to speed and caught up with their credits, so I appreciate that. And with grades 9 through 11, there's credit recovery. We had 147 students that we served there. 9th, 10th, and 11th grade students started out in 2 5-credit classes with the ability to enroll in more, so we slowly spoon-fed the courses to them. We recovered 546 credits. So we made sure that they were able to take advantage of the opportunity to work over the summer and receive those credits. Also, we met with the high school transcript registrar and were able to ensure that all those credits were rolled onto their transcripts. The classes that are offered and staff recognition, senior credit recovery was oversaw by Mr. LaFay. English 9 and 10 live instruction by Ms. Sherman. Integrated math 1 and 2 by Mr. Dawson on the Edgenuity platform. The Edgenuity classes for credit makeup were overseen by Ms. Colagrassi, Mr. LaFay, and Mr. Dawson. And Maria Schuster tracked attendance and called families to make sure students showed up to school on time. So thank you for that. And the students that were served, we had students by grade level. 9th grade, we had more males than females. 10th grade, more females than male. And 11th grade, more males than female. Hispanic Latino, we had 54%. I need to darken those percentages. 54%. And Asian is 1.4%, Pacific Islander 4.9%, African American 1.4%, Caucasian 30%, and Native American 6.9%. I think. Is that a 6.9? Thank you. Okay. I know how to improve my slides for next time. Okay, subgroup served. We have 11% that had a 504. We have 64% that were RFEP'd. So that's a huge population of the credit recovery makeup. So hearing about these other programs that are happening over summer, I'm thinking over time, hopefully that will matriculate up to this and have a bigger impact on students that will not need to participate in credit makeup, so because they're getting it at an earlier age. So
Can you remind me what RFEP is?
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
It's redesignated
Fluent English proficient. Okay,
Thank you.
got it. Thanks.
It's yes. And then we also have our ELLs. IFEP is, Allison?
That initially reclassified
Okay,
proficient, so the first time they ever took an assessment language.
okay. So those are the initial fluent English proficient. And then ELs, English language learners, homeless and migrant ed, and foster youth. So,
Basically, everybody at home, if you can remember all those acronyms, you get a certificate at the end of summer.
thank you. All right, learning celebration. Students showed up daily in person to complete the courses. Teachers monitored progress and assisted with learning. Teachers also motivated and guided students. Students were very respectful. They worked hard. they were willing to finish and they were motivated to learn. So they were motivated to, they knew that they were there to get those credits, and they really wanted to get them done. So that was nice to see the motivation. Staff feedback recommendations is to hold summer school credit makeup program in June rather than July, because students are still in school mode. These students are credit makeup, so they had a big break. There was a big gap between June and when they started in July. The staff and counselors also need extra time to integrate the Aries information, and also for high school especially, to review transcripts and close out one school year and get ready for the next school year. There has to be a gap in time for that. So that was just one of the feedback from staff. So, and thank yous. We're feeling very grateful that we could use North Bay Met and Windsor Oaks, their learning space, with us. Christina Becker was a huge integral part of Aries integration specialist. She helped with scheduling and the Aries database. Yvette James and Maria Schuster were both a huge help with school secretaries. Lauren Schmidt was our academic counseling service. Celia Guzman was helping with translations. Barbara Morgan with transcripts and diplomas. Our custodians, Victor Calderon and crew. And food services, Jennifer Baker and team. So thank you, everyone. And thank you for this opportunity. I enjoyed it.
You want to go first, Stephanie? Oh, so Catherine, thank you very much. I really go back to that last thank you slide. It just reminded me when we were celebrating people, almost every single one of those people, I know many of them, are non-certificated, they're classified employees, they're admin support people, reminding us how it takes a village. And a beautiful transition to Jennifer Baker, who has coolers full of stuff here for the next agenda item, I've noticed. No, you're not done yet. So in all seriousness, though, go back one more before that, the staff recommendation, has that been addressed? I hadn't thought about either of those points, to roll the students in June as they're still sort of school mindset, but also, since we start school like on August 4th now, or whenever we start at the second week of August, to allow all that administrative integration. If you went to the 29th, it literally was a week, and those students are rolling back into school. Where are we on considering this or implementing that? Has it come up? I certainly think that's a great idea and would be interested to support that. I didn't ask the other two, and maybe they could reserve their time. What else would you need to make this program better? Other than those, because I thought about that, you had suggestions, and those seem to be doable. This, you seldom get the chance. People sitting up here with our new $500,000 of arts money here, but in all seriousness, what could we do to help this program continue to succeed? Because I think it is, as the other two as well, for a variety of reasons for our students. What could even make this better, do you think?
Well, I mean, I could go on, but one of the things that comes to the top of my mind is having a student advisor on campus, supporting students who are on the physical campus, because there were some days where they thought they could just go to Starbucks at the break. Well, the break is 15 minutes. You can't go anywhere. You have to stay here. And so for student safety, that was a big concern of mine. And so to be able to contain that and have that support would be a nice additional bonus, to have somebody, in a golf cart kind of circling the premises and saying, hey, get back over there, and can't leave, can't go to the track, and, because the high school is a big campus. Even though we're on we're on North Bay Met's campus, it's still, it's like poof, and then you're like, wait, come back. So that was something that just off the top of my mind for student safety, I think that's really important. So to keep
Thank you
them
for your
there.
candor. I was thinking when you were saying that we have Starbucks come to give smoothies at Project Grad Night, maybe we can urge Starbucks to come by once a week and bring Starbucks to the students.
Yeah, if they're on
Just a thought.
track,
Thank
they
you.
can
Yeah.
get their
Oh, that's true,
Starbucks.
yeah.
If
Thank
they're
you for your
behind
candor.
course,
Appreciate
no.
that.
Hey, you also mentioned that you were thinking about shifting closer to June instead of July. Do you think the kids, I mean, they're trying to make up credits. By moving it, do you think that month in between there kind of dissipates a sense of urgency? Because when kids get a report card at the end of the year and the parents see that report card, there's probably a lot of urgency type feelings going on in the home. And if you have a month, I think sometimes those things can dissipate. And so if you moved it up, do you think that that would also help? Maybe the focus, would you pick up some additional students possibly as well? So I'm just wondering about those kind of things. On the other hand, I have a student that I'm working with who uses that program to make up some of his stuff, and we kind of keep him very focused to be working on those kind of things. And I just got to say, I like that program. It is a thing that's kind of inspiring me, along with Superintendent Decker, not necessarily that program, but the whole idea of the independent study for some kids, not just here in Windsor, but all around. It's something that I think that we're going to develop a lot as part of some of our strategies for different things. But I know some people may think that, oh, this is kind of this is a slice of cake type of deal. It's really not. It is work. The kids have to work. It really, you're either focused and you're doing it, or you're not. It's not progressing you at all. And I like it. It's something that I thought of. Where my office used to be 10 years ago, there was an independent study school below. And I heard what they were doing. It was the first time I kind of thought about that stuff. I go, man, why aren't we doing that everywhere and stuff? And so anyhow, I appreciate what you're doing and the whole school, quite frankly. I think there are just different folks that learn different ways. I think some of these students, while this is credit makeup, I think that if we expand that independent program, there are a lot of students who may not find themselves in that need to be making things up, but they would follow along all the way along. So anyhow, thank you for the work that you're doing. I think it's going to be we're learning from that, and it's going to be a bridge to some better and bigger programs I think that we can offer not only our Windsor kids, but kids all over the place. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Catherine. I'm just saying thank you, and I also like the idea of the earlier start date. I don't know if there's a reason why we have to do in July, so maybe it's an option. Thanks.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Is there any more, Sharon? Are we? Okay, no, I just want to make sure we're good. All right, thank you all very much. We're now going to move to 5.2, food service presentation. This will be presented. This is never mind. Jennifer Baker, our Director of Food Service and Nutrition. Welcome.
And yes, I did bring food.
We'll work for food.
I'll do a little introduction too of Jen. Stephanie, you had mentioned you stole me from Southern California. So Jeremy and I last year around, was it December, Jen, that you started? November? December 1st. So around December 1st, we actually stole Jen as well from Central California, Bakersfield. And so, yeah.
You stole it from Bakersfield?
We did.
Did you go down there on a 110-degree day and tell her, hey, it's... Yes.
Yeah, we
One
think
of my-
we're
one
in a
of my
drought. You
best
should go there.
wrestlers Wrestled at Bakersfield and went down to one of his events. And I thought Bakersfield was kind of nice because we always went to the state meet in February or March.
Uh-huh.
I didn't realize there's other months that Bakersfield has that you could cook that food right there on the sidewalk.
Yeah, you can.
You missed your calling, Bill.
No, I'm fine. I've been so well fed this evening. Yeah. Thank you.
I am going to.
I mean, I'll take it. It's here. Yeah.
You know,
Oh, God, all right. Just because we get 3 meals a day for every kid, everything, and we're here to have. I love these things.
Yeah, aren't they nice? Okay, there's 12. What are these? This is a sample of, are they all the same? Pasta and fruit.
We also have hot meals with pasta in case. Oh, the students are like, well, I could maybe take one home.
Pasta and, this is pasta and
We get 3 meals a day for every kid at every school.
Excuse me, Superintendent Decker, would this be an appropriate time to let Vice President Adams finish the meeting while we eat our food? Hey, Bill. Bill, you. No, you got to stay, but Bill, this is what I'm turning it over to you. We're going to eat while you finish the meeting. I'm glad they rescued you from Bakersfield.
Yes, me too.
I remember what you told me yesterday.
I know, right?
Okay.
I'm going to have to seal this up here.
Okay, so you know I'm Jennifer Baker, and I'm the Food and Nutrition Director here, and I wanted to share some things that are happening in the Food Service Department here in Windsor. So this year, California adopted the Universal Feeding Program. The Universal Feeding, all students will continue to receive a free breakfast and lunch. We've also been approved for Provision 2 this year. Provision 2, students will continue to receive a free breakfast and lunch regardless of the state's continuation with the universal feeding. You missing something?
Utensils.
Oh, are they all gone? I brought 12.
It's election year, I can't use fingers.
Oh, no.
Pays to stay at the meeting. All of you can collect.
Sorry about that. So with Provision 2, again, the students will continue to receive free breakfast and lunch regardless of the state's continuation of the universal feeding program. This is our base year. So our base year, we will no longer have, after our base year, we will no longer have to collect meal applications, which will reduce the paperwork. We will also no longer have to, how did we go past? Sorry, my slideshow is skipping. No, go to the next one. There we go. We will no longer have to identify the students at the POS after our first year in the base year either, and that will help the lines go much quicker. I started a Second Chance breakfast program at the high school, middle school, and Maddie Washburn, and it has been a huge success. They are serving breakfast before the morning bell, and then during the first break, the students who weren't able to get breakfast before the morning bell have another chance to get a breakfast. Participation has already increased by 61% since last year. With the WELL program and the Boys and Girls Club, the Food Service Department is required to provide meals for these students attending the WELL program and the Boys and Girls Club. An afternoon snack has already been provided under the National School Lunch Program while we wait approval from the Department of Social Services to participate in the Child and Adult Care Food Program. The reimbursement rate with CACFP will increase, and it'll help the revenue of the food service program. We are using a nutrition software called Titan, and the sites do their meal production records through this software, and it helps in planning the meals and how many they prepare each day, which helps eliminate the waste. Unfortunately, meal counts have been all over the place. especially at the high school. They have a lot of special things happening on campus or go on field trips, and they don't let the food service staff know. They prepare according to what they're normally preparing, and then they have a lot of waste because students aren't there. But overall, I feel like we're doing a good job with waste. Oh, okay. So we have had a lot of changes in the menus. The new changes are more scratch and speed scratch cooking, less packaged food, more eye-appealing in-house packaging, online menus with nutritional facts, digital display menus at the high school and soon at the middle school. The elementary breakfast menu has changed from a 1-week rotation to a 4-week rotation, and lunch from a 2-week rotation to an 8-week rotation, with 1 entree item, and that is helping reduce waste as well. With less repetitive meals, the students are more likely to have a school breakfast or lunch. The middle school and high school lunch menus, breakfast and lunch menus, are now a 2-week cycle rather than a 1-week cycle, and offer a large variety of options, including fresh-made deli sandwiches, entree salads, as you see there, speed scratch pastas, and burritos. The menus will also change seasonally. So this is what our online menus look like. This is the district's website. Am I controlling it or? Okay. Where's the volume? So this is, I don't hear the volume. This is explaining how to get to the district. Well, through the district website, you go to the nutrition page. You click on the menus. And then when you highlight over, you hover over an item, the nutritional facts come up.
Is that through that Titan software?
It's part of the same company. It's called Link, but it's part of the same company. And so is the digital display that's at the high school right now.
So our kids, they know what's coming up for the week.
They look on this, they'll know for the whole month.
Wow.
Unfortunately, with product availability, the menu does change sometimes.
Big Daddy pepperoni pizza.
That's a favorite at the high school and middle school. Okay. These are pictures of some of the menued items at the high school. In the upper left-hand corner is a bean and cheese enchilada. The lower left-hand is a fresh-made deli sandwich. Upper center is the fresh-made chef salad with a garlic breadstick. And then the lower is a salad that they make in-house. It's a Spanish cucumber and orange salad. On the right upper-hand corner, we have the chicken Caesar salad. And then in the bottom right-hand corner is the penne beef pasta, which is a favorite of the students. This is some feedback that I've gotten from some students. This was a student that was in the office, and she came by my office to tell me how much she really liked the food. And that's on the menu now. I asked her if she would mind writing something for me to share with you. This is what she had to say. Thank you so much for changing our food choices in the cafeteria. Everyone has really liked the burgers and potato wedges. We also really like the pizza. My favorite food has been the mac and cheese. Now that the food changed, I'm seeing more people get school lunch. We get excited to see what food choices there is each day. She is at Cali, so I'll explain that a little bit. Because Cali has middle schoolers there, I felt like they needed to have some of the same options as Windsor Middle School. So my lead person there in the kitchen chooses a few items from the high school and the middle school and puts it on the menu so that they have a second option, not every day of the week, but on days that she thinks that they would like something different.
I've also heard from the middle school and the high school staff that the students love the yogurt parfaits. They can't keep them on the shelf. The chili verde burrito, which you have a sample of, both pasta dishes, and a new Texas-style barbecue pork sandwich that they just served this last week. But their favorite, I think overall, is the pizza. Participation data shows that during the month of August, meal participation increased compared to the numbers last year. Breakfast had an increase of almost 40%, while lunch saw a 1% increase. We've continued to see a climb in numbers, with September having an increase of 21% in breakfast and 9% at lunch since August, making an overall increase of 61% for breakfast and 10% for lunch. School lunch lines are always an issue, and the pandemic only made it worse for school districts across the board. The elementary sites are now scanning ID cards, which is going very well. The middle school and high school are using their PIN numbers, which does slow down the line some, but overall they're moving pretty quickly. But again, with Provision 2, next year we will not have to identify the students at the POS, and that will help the lines go a lot quicker. With the restrictions being lifted, we were able to open another line at the high school, and I hope to add another serving station at the high school campus in the next few months. This is
Does that say they'll be able to do mobile ordering?
not mobile ordering.
Oh, okay, that's what I
no.
thought it said. Okay, I was like, whoa.
Not yet,
Okay.
possibly in the future. I've made quite a few changes for this staff, so I'm trying to take baby steps. But this is a mobile station, or not a mobile station, this is called a quick cafe. I actually put a few of these in my last district. This would be on the other side of the campus, so that the students that aren't able to get lunch to the lunch line currently in time before the cafeteria closes, they would be able to get lunch here. And they would be serving the same items that is being served in the lunch line now. So that's all I have for you. Thank you for your time. I hope you've enjoyed your samples.
The first thought that came to my mind was, I am so glad that I retired as a wrestling coach before you got here. It's going to be so hard to keep the kids on weight. Now, that menu looks amazing, and the food's really nice and tasty. But anyhow, thank you for doing this. It's really nice. I had a thought about the extra food and the extra things, and I'm not sure what our process or procedures are, but it would be, and maybe we're already doing it to a certain degree, but do we, at the end of the school day, take everything that we have available from that day? Do we have a way, or do we put it out for kids to come by at the end of the day? Good. Is there a way, do we put it out so that way kids, it reminds me of when I was in college and we had the training table. So we would go in the school, they were trying to keep us bigger. And so at the end of the day, after practice, we would go by, and anything that was left over from the training table, they had it out. So all the kids, we could come by and we would just take everything, because some of us were eating 8, 10, 12,000 calories a day. So we were just trying to keep it on then. And so anyhow, do we do that? Do we have it available for the kids? Some of the kids eat normal. Some kids are thin as a rail, and they eat like a termite. And so instead of having anything waste, I'd rather see it be made available for someone to come by.
So I know the high school does this, and Cali does this as well, but it's not really being done correctly or safely.
Okay.
They have what technically is called a share table, and this is something that I did in my last district. We had a share table, and I worked with Kern County Health Department Services, and anything that's left over at lunch has to be eaten at lunch. So we couldn't put it out after the fact, and they could get it after school or anything like that. They'd have to get it there. So at the end of the serving line in the high school, they have a counter, and anything, because the students are required to take 3 items.
They have to take a meat, a grain, a vegetable, a fruit, or a milk. And they have to take 3 of those items, and one of them has to be a fruit or a vegetable. And a lot of times, the students don't want the fruit or vegetable, but they have to take it. So they put it on the back counter. Anybody that does want it is free to take it from there. But because it's not being held at a temperature, if it's milk, it's not being put in a cooler, especially at Cali, their table is just a table, and the students haven't been educated on what they can leave. They can't leave a partially eaten sandwich, which I've seen. They can't leave food that we package, like bags of fruits or vegetables. They could leave something like the carrots that come packaged, processed like that. In Kern County, what we did with them is they have a program called Waste Hunger Not Food, and anything that's left over at the end of the day that is packaged, untouched, whole fruit, whole cartons of milk that have not been opened, and any food that's been in the kitchen that wasn't actually served to the students that we didn't package ourselves, or even bulk items like the pasta, any kind of bulk cooking that they would do. We would package it up, freeze it, and we had drivers in our district, so they would deliver they'd pick up that food 2 or 3 times a week, and they would deliver it to local churches that Kern County connected us with. So our waste was virtually nothing at that point. And I've talked to Redwood Food Bank a few times about trying to get something done like this.
And that's great that we can get to 0, but I'd like to first make sure that all of our students, whether they qualify for the free lunches or not, but that our students don't, that they have access to that first. And if there are some rules and some regulations that are maybe hurdles to that, maybe we could, at another time, or you and I could meet, we could go over and find out what those are. Because maybe I've been here for 4 years. I've found that there are some really good regulations, and there's some really good reasons why. And I've found that there's some really not so great regulations, and nobody can remember why it was put in place. So let's get rid of some of the hurdles. If there's a reason why some kids aren't getting access, I'm gonna be straight up honest with you. My parents did not make enough money. They made too much money for me to qualify for some of the really good food that some of my friends were eating when we were at school. And I never could understand when I'm 7 or 8 years old why they got the nice little taters and all those other things, and I didn't get to eat any of that stuff. But anyhow, I'm glad that we're not wasting food. I'm glad that there's a program that we can implement to make sure that nothing's getting wasted. But I'd sure like to see that any kid and every kid at Windsor is who got access to it first. And then if there's something left over, then we could go to the banks after that.
Right. Well, remember, they all get free meals, breakfast and lunch.
Right, no, I'm talking about after.
After, yeah.
So take it home with them, I don't care.
Have to look and see what we can find. I just know the meals have to be eaten at mealtime. They can't be taken afterwards.
So they can't take it, is that a state law or our own
It's rules and regulations, federal.
federal stuff?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
federal.
Like I said, they can leave it on a table, a share table, and after the students have, our students here don't eat in the cafeteria. So
Right.
that's a little bit different for me. They eat outside. So the share cart would technically be where the students are eating. At the high school, it's at the end of the line, so the students would have to come back into the serving line and take something off that table.
You had a question?
Yeah, I think I know what you're getting at. Yeah, there's a ton of regulations regarding how much time that they are allowed to eat in between. So like, what is it, Jen, for breakfast? They have to wait 2 hours for lunch?
2 hours.
2
They're
hours.
stretching it a little bit because of a second chance breakfast, and we're right about 2 hours right now, but
Yeah.
they stretched it a little bit.
So it's not as easy as the kids come through, grab lunch, and if they're still hungry, oh, we have leftovers, let's give it to them, because obviously we would love to do that. But one of the things that Jen is doing is she's realizing that sometimes not all the kids have a lunch or something to eat. So she's instituted a second chance breakfast, and that's why breakfast participation's way up, because she's now doing the first breakfast, and then now she's doing a second breakfast, and then lunch, and then now she's even starting the before and after school, which is called supper, which is like a dinner. So that way kids are able to eat at least, hopefully, if they need it, 4 times a day, which is awesome.
So is that the second chance breakfast, is that like a brunch in between something, or?
The same meal. It's just for the students who weren't able to get breakfast before the morning bell started or rang.
Okay.
So,
Like during snack time?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, everybody calls it snack here, but it's
What do you call it?
breakfast.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they're all calling it snack, so I was confused about what they were doing, and Maddie Washburn had been doing this all along. They just weren't under a program. And the problem with the way they were doing it is that the students would come before school, get the breakfast or snack, take it with them to the classroom, and it would sit with them for 2 hours, and then they would go out and eat at their first recess. And they're picking up milk, possibly an egg sandwich, now yogurt parfaits, and they're keeping it with them in the classroom and then eating it at their first recess, and that just can't happen.
So I would call that, the first recess, I'd call that brunch.
Yeah?
So we have breakfast, brunch, lunch, then what'd you call it, supper? Dinner?
Supper, so,
Supper, yeah.
yeah, the program is called
Well-
Second Chance Breakfast, but it's for those students who missed out. And then, once we get approved for the CACFP, we'll start supper. That's right after school's left out for the students that are in the WELL program and the Boys and Girls Club. And then, before they leave that day, they'll also get a snack, which is basically like a graham cracker and a milk or some type of protein and fruit.
Sharon loves graham crackers, by the way.
I'll have to remember that. With chocolate.
I have a few things. So first, Jennifer, thank you for being here and walking us through the program and where it is now and kind of how it's evolving. I think food is really important. Like, we see that on our data, like in our surveys, when kids are asked questions about, I think even whether someone cares about them, right? We found that it had to do with whether they were offered food or kind of the food that they have access to at school. So I think it's a critical component of the education experience, and now we're basically offering a full menu, it sounds like, throughout the day. So I am really excited about hearing about some of the changes and how accessible it's becoming for people to, students and families to find out what's being offered. I'm wondering, I have a few questions, and then I want to also hear from you kind of on, like, similar to what Bill asked an earlier presenter about what do you need from us? How can we support you? But before we get to that, are there any plans to, like, measure in any way, kind of, because I saw that breakfast has increased by 40%, which is awesome. Lunch had increased, I think, by only 1%.
That was in August.
Oh, that was in August?
Now, breakfast is 61% and lunch is 10%.
Okay.
Since last year.
Right. So we are measuring
Oh, yeah.
already. And I think it would be great to get periodic updates, either if you could make it or if you can't make it, for it just to be data that we hear about every now and then, because I think it's pretty interesting.
October will be the best month to gauge our increase. That's usually when you see the true numbers, the true percentages.
And something else that I'm interested in, we live in such a food-rich area, I think geographically, but I'm thinking that probably most of our school lunch food doesn't come from this area. I don't know if it does, so I don't really know where it comes from, or whether we're happy with the sources that we have, whether we could use more local sources. I'm just interested in knowing more about that aspect of the food.
Well, dairy is definitely Clover, so it is
Okay.
local.
Well, yeah.
We are in a large co-op that I was brought into, and I'm not used to such a large co-op. So I did not get out of it this year. We rolled over bids. All of our USDA products are through them as well. So any commodity or USDA products come from our main vendor, who's Gold Star. And a lot of the products are local, but not all of them. You know, they kind of come from all over. But I know a lot of vendors. I know a lot of reps for different manufacturers over my past 6 years of being in this business. And I've really learned like what products I like and what products are good and what products I think the students would approve of as well. Moving forward, I would probably like to consider not being in such a large co-op because I feel like I'd have more freedom and I wouldn't have to have a middleman with the USDA products. That being said, we don't have enough storage right now for my last district. I had very large freezers and I would bring in a ton of shipment once a month, but we don't have that space here.
I was going to ask you if, because sometime with food, I mean, if you can bulk material, you get better deals on those things. So if, following up, I don't want to put you on the spot right now, but if we could, because you wouldn't need to have those large refrigerators or freezers, they wouldn't have to be any site specific. They would just have to be accessible for you to then move things
Right.
slightly around, right?
A central warehouse.
Right. So if you could get back to us at another time and let us know if you had a magic wand and you said, hey, I could have, if I had this size of a facility to refrigerate or freeze or both, what would that be? And the reason why I ask is because I see all the time new, brand new, almost new, very, very large freezers. Great prices. So there are things that we can sometimes get a freezer maybe on 20 cents on the dollar. They're not brand new, but we could possibly get them. And then also they have backup sources, so that way the food wouldn't waste if there was a power outage of some sort. So if you could get that back to us, I would like to look and see, one, what did we learn from COVID? I mean, just supply chains got totally wiped out. Those still aren't back. Those still could happen to us again, something else. So if you could get that information to us, I would be interested to see how much room you would need to do what you might want to do. And maybe we do it incrementally. Maybe we could get blessed and have something really great come along. And I also see trucks that have refrigerated and freeze. I used to. That was my first.
To one right now, but it runs on diesel, so I don't think that that's a good option. I hadn't even mentioned it to Austin yet, but somebody asked me if I wanted it.
Well, I have 70 diesel trucks in my fleet, so I actually kind of like them because they get down the road. But anyhow, until you have something better, it's the hydrogen ones are coming out. But anyhow, the whole point is there is a lot of things that are available to us if we're looking. And it's so if we know what you're looking for, I think we could maybe find a lot of those things that would help our operation be even better. So
that's something Austin and I have talked about a central warehouse. With what I was talking about with the co-op, the problem of getting out of such a large co-op is I do get better prices on products because we're buying in such large quantities between all of the districts. So that's something I have to consider as well.
Jackson?
I'll go for a little bit. I will say anything I say is probably going to be pretty high school centric because that's where I am. But all in all, I think it's a really good program. It's really good that it's free. That's nice. It saves me a lot of time in the mornings that I can just show up and not have to worry about kind of my meals throughout the day because I can just pick up stuff when I need it. The biggest complaint you probably get from students is that the lines are really long. Hopefully, I'm glad the other kids that were here left because I don't really want to give away my secrets, but you can just wait like 20 minutes and then go, and there's nobody in line, and there's still plenty of time to eat all the food. So, lines aren't too big of an issue. I mean, obviously, if we can expand them, that's great. I know we did move from 3 lines to 4 recently, which was very nice. But other than that, I mean, I don't know if there's a way to like measure what students really like the most other than just keeping an eye on what runs out the quickest. I don't know if we really need to take too much student input. My sister is a very picky eater, so you might get a lot of stuff that you kind of have to filter through. And the food's free, so I don't think they have too much room to complain. But I don't know if that's something we want to facilitate, find out what people like the most, what people are really only getting because there's nothing else left, or anything like that. I don't know if that's something we want to partake in. I don't think it's something we necessarily need to, but it may be a way to filter out and focus on the items that people enjoy the most and are going to eat the most. But, yeah.
They have been asking students this week, and actually since school started, what items they like the most. They do know that the pizza is very popular, and anything else that we put out on that day is going to compete with the pizza. They did have some complaints that there were only burritos and burgers left at the end of the long lines, so I've encouraged them to keep some of the other options back and let them run out early and put them out before that second wave comes through. So they found that is working better. I think the high school staff, and actually the middle school staff too, they know pretty well what the students like. They get a lot of feedback. I know the middle school students really love this burrito that I brought you this evening, the chili verde burrito, and that's a really popular item so far. So, but I'm hoping that getting that other serving line in is going to help with the long lines.
Thank you. Hey, Jackson, after the meeting, I have a few tricks too that'll help you with the lines. If you don't mind, I know we have public comment, but I don't want to, do you mind taking a break for a second and then get public comment in that way, because you might be able to answer a question that might come up?
Sure.
Is that okay? Okay, thanks. If you don't mind, just take a minute, and I'd like to open up for public comment. Yes.
Laura Gonzalez, WDA President, Windsor Middle School. And I have a couple of questions about the program. So I might have missed a little bit about the, being able to keep it to share it later. So I was wondering, before the pandemic, at my site anyway, there was a big bowl and the kids would put the fruit in there. There were whole apples, bananas. I've noticed now that the apples are all sliced, so they're in packaging. And I was just wondering if apples, whole would come back. And I noticed that I don't have a 6-period class, but one teacher at my site, which I won't name just in case he can't do this, is having the kids bring him, bring the teacher bananas and things like that they don't eat at lunch, and then having them as snacks for 6th period. Can't do that. Okay.
And they are supplying whole fruit. I know they get
Okay.
sliced apples occasionally.
Oh,
but
okay.
They do get the whole fruit as well.
Okay, so even whole fruit is not okay to do that?
It's okay for them to share it, but again, the meal has to be eaten at the mealtime. You can't take it back to the classroom and have it later.
Okay,
That would be like an after-school snack program.
okay, all right. And then my second question is that I think it was when we came back from the pandemic that you stopped selling to staff. And so I was wondering, well, I haven't tried this year, but I think it was last year that I went and I was told that no, it's only for students. And so I wanted to check on that, because there's those days when you leave your lunch on the kitchen counter and I don't really want to leave campus. But so staff, yeah.
Okay. I don't know if, like I just started in December, so they do sell to staff.
Okay.
I've encouraged the middle school to start doing that. The person there, the lead there, is new as well. But they've announced it.
Okay, I haven't really paid attention, but I just know that last year at some point, when I went to go try and buy something, I was told no, because it's federal food or something, and it's just for the kids. So.
No, you just have to purchase it.
Well, no, yeah, they weren't doing that. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Laura. Is there anyone else that, okay, I'm going to bring it back up to the, oh, I'm sorry, Brad.
Brad Flynn, lead custodian, Cali-Calmeca Language Academy. I think we're missing one option. We have to look at what's put on the tables, what's picked up and not eaten, because I have to clean all that up. So if the kids aren't eating it, and the majority of the kids aren't eating it, then we're missing that point. So, and I think the food is fabulous compared to what it has been. Kudos. You've done obviously a fabulous job, but there's so many things that we could probably change what we do. So for example, the kids are required to take milk, but I throw out at least 400 cartons of milk per day that are not even opened. Why can't we have a refrigerator right outside the kitchen door? If the kids don't want it, put it in the refrigerator. I'm just offering some options, but this is, I think we're missing something here. So, thank you.
Thanks, Brad. Actually, the point that Brad just brought up is the exact point that I want to try to get to. I know that there are rules, but if we're throwing away, forget 400, if we're throwing away 100 things of milk a day, that is just, there's got to be a way to avoid that. So I know that we have to have certain things for the kids to eat, and we have to have certain balances and all this stuff. But as an example, if we're putting out 30 gallons of spinach to feed all the kids spinach, and Brad's cleaning up 29 and a half gallons of spinach left all over the place, I hope that we can modulate and adjust what we're doing. So we always have what's available for those who want that material. But just because we're supposed to have spinach so many times a month or whatever, as an example, that if the kids aren't eating it, let's not waste it, let's not throw it away. Let's not spend the money to buy it when we know look, we can debate whether it's good for you or not. We all know the vitamins in it and all that stuff and the fiber and everything's great. But the kids don't eat it, then we're wasting money that we could have for something else. And so I hope that we aren't so rigidly, I don't even know what the right word is, but so rigidly focused on meeting all these little things that we're wasting stuff that we're not using. But to Brad's point, if we're wasting that much milk that's not even opened, but you said we make a kid take 3 out of 5 things or something?
The students are not required to take milk.
Okay.
They have to take 3 items out of 5. And most of the time, if not all of the time, the entree is 2 items. It's always a grain and a protein. A hamburger. The hamburger bun is the grain, the meat is the protein. A burrito, the tortilla is the grain, the meat, beans, cheese are the protein. So they only have to take 1 other item, and it has to be a fruit or a vegetable. I feel like probably what's happened in all districts is that in the past, it was offered, or it was served, not offer versus serve. So we're serving the students a meal that's offer versus serve, meaning they don't have to take all 5 components. When I grew up, we had to take everything, whether we wanted it or not. But you don't have to now, and milk is not one of those required components. But I think that it's been drilled into adults' heads, and then they tell the students that as well. You have to take milk, you have to take milk. They don't have to take milk.
I think I would just add, like, I think as a board, and hopefully you don't think I'm speaking for you, I'm just adding to what you're saying, is like, I think we like to be nimble and agile and think outside of the box and be helpful. And I think I hope that you're not taking anything that we're saying as a criticism. I think it's just, we're really just curious. Like, is this something that we could do? Like, are there out-of-the-box things that we can do to reduce waste that we haven't thought of before? And you're getting started, like, you've been here for under a year, so you're almost a year, which is, kind of a long time now with COVID and the time warp that it caused. But as much as you can tell us, like, okay, like, maybe that's something that we could look at, or actually, this is what I think the issue is, or I think that's what Rich is getting at, is just like, if you want to be creative, we can support you in being creative.
And I am. That is something that I'm looking into. And when it comes to the different, when you're talking about being so rigid, unfortunately, following the rules and regulations, we do have to serve all the different subgroups of vegetables throughout the week. And the students might not like broccoli. They might not like spinach. So the staff knows what items they don't like. Most kids don't like beans. So they only prepare a very small amount of them because some students do like them. So we'll say at Cali, they serve around 600 students, maybe more. They'll only prepare maybe 50 portions of beans because it has to be offered. Students don't have to take it.
So you do modulate the offer, the
Yes.
amount of the
Yes,
offering
definitely.
to meet what the kind of demand. Excellent, that's good.
And most of the carrots, most of the students love those baby carrots, so they always have those available. And those, they can be put into a share table. Unfortunately, we can't serve them again. So that's why if students don't go take them at lunchtime, I would prefer just to donate them somewhere.
Part of the reason why I'm asking also is, Jackson, you are one of the brightest kids I've ever come across, so I don't mean this any other way, but this food isn't free. This food is paid for.
Right.
And so we're spending money. It doesn't matter where the money comes from via the government. It ultimately is coming from all the people in this country that are providing that money. So it's not free. It's an investment that everybody as a society is making, and making sure that every kid has got their fed, so that way they can study and they can reach their potential. So it's not free. So throwing stuff away is everything that's not being used is wasted. There's always going to be an element of waste in any opportunity or any endeavor, but the more we can minimize that and maximize the more people we can reach, the better. So it's I don't want us to say things are free. It's not. We're investing in our kids to make sure that they have all the nutrition they need, all the food that they need, the energy and all that stuff, so that way they can perform to the best of their capacity. So it's a small little tweak to that, but I think it's an important thing, because what we're not spending on food, we can be spending in other areas to also enrich the kids. So anyhow, and to Stephanie's point, yeah, we're very creative, we're very open, we just want what's best. And if certain things are in our way, you just need to let us know what those things are. We'll try to figure out how to get around them, over them, or through them. And sometimes, who knows how that is going to be, but we've got a very, very able staff in our district to help all our kids. So I think that's what we're trying to let you know, is that if you got a great idea, we're really wanting to hear it, so, through them.
Yes.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot. And thanks for bringing all this stuff. All righty, we are now, what's that? Oh, yeah.
Are you taking the hummus? Oh, don't take the hummus.
Want the hummus? Hey, they make it you want carrots with your hummus?
Absolutely.
Bill, I'm sorry, it's been out 2 hours, you can't have it.
That's only for kids.
I was looking at the clock, it was 2.3 minutes, or hours. Thanks a lot. Okay, we're moving to 5.3, the Interdistrict Transfer Report by Allison Griggs.
Yeah, thanks for having me
Good
back.
to see you up here again.
Right.
Yeah, want some carrots? Everybody loves.
Didn't know we'd have snacks tonight. So, as mentioned, I'm going to be sharing information about our annual interdistrict transfer numbers for this school year. Interdistrict transfers tonight, we're going to be looking at within our school district boundaries, students and families that attend Windsor schools, or students and families that choose schools outside of Windsor. So our incoming interdistrict students are going to be those that reside outside of our district boundaries but choose to come to a Windsor school. Our outgoing interdistricts are going to be students that reside within our Windsor School District boundaries, but choose to go somewhere else. Students transfer for a number of reasons. In Windsor, the majority of the reasons that we see are with regard to the top two you see listed here, continuing in the district that the student's already in. And that really applies to our students that leave our district and our students that we have that come in. As soon as families really get established where they are, their students start making friends, they start building that community and are invested in their programs. That's typically where we see our students stay.
You're referring to like when people move houses from town to town and
When
that's such.
people move, but also say we have a family within Windsor that chooses to go to another school, we'll often see them continue there and matriculate through the grades. They're less likely to come back to us. And then same for the students we have coming in. As soon as we have them, they're more likely to stay with us. And then the other one that's most common is childcare options. So as of August 31st, our district enrollment was 4,680. Of those students, 1,167 are Cali students. And then we have an additional 94 that are part of Village Charter. Outside of Cali, we have 285 students coming into us from outside of our boundaries, choosing to come to Windsor schools. And we have 100 leaving, so students that are residing within Windsor School District boundaries, but choose to go to another program. That's based on numbers that we can confirm based on our inter-district transfer requests. But we're going to talk a little bit more in a couple slides about estimates on numbers that we know. We know that number's actually higher. And then at Cali, we have 252 students that do not reside within Windsor Unified District boundaries, so they're from outside of Windsor. This site breakdown, again, is based on the numbers we can confirm with those inter-district transfer requests. So if you look at this, you'd see that for 9 through 12, we see 126 students coming in from other schools and 23 going out. But we're going to look at a little bit more information about that for the high school in particular. What I do want to point out also is for the TK through 5 range, we have seen an improvement in all of my years in this position and tracking this data. We've always had more students outgoing than incoming at the TK through 5. So this is the first year that I've seen that we actually have a positive net gain of 8 students, 8 more coming in than going out. So this is where it's a little bit different than what I've reported to you on in previous years. We're trying to get a more actual representation of where our students are going and how many are leaving, because with those inter-district transfer requests, charter schools and private programs don't have to fill that out. So we were able to get some estimates. So you'll notice in that top row for grades 9 through 12. On the previous slide, I told you 23. 23 was what we have confirmed. We actually think it's closer to 103, based on students that are going to private programs that we don't have confirmed request forms for. And then for grades TK through 8, we looked at programs that students might go to outside of Windsor boundaries that could be private or charter programs, and we think there are about 355 students. So overall, you can see that for our net increase for the high school, it's actually more like 43 students.
The breakdown of that number, 355 students, majority
Mark West Charter.
and then the next most probably Windsor Christian.
Windsor Christian, and yeah, Windsor Christian would be next. West Side's just a couple, yeah.
Interesting, so I pulled up actually giving this presentation, Windsor Christian numbers. They've got 264 total students, but 80 of those students are preschool students.
So this is more of a breakdown of the students that we know are going somewhere else that have to request that with us. So it's not going to represent some of the students that I just mentioned. The majority of those students do go to Mark West, West Side, and Santa Rosa. And that accounts for about 100 total. The majority of our students that we have coming in come from Santa Rosa. And then those reasons I mentioned previously, we also track going forward. The majority of our families, again, communicate that they want to stay with whatever class that they're with. So wherever they already are, whether it's with us or another school, they want to stay there. And then we do have our second most common reason for families to go outside of the district is work-related. So if they work somewhere else, they'd like their students to go to school closer to where they work. And lastly, we look at our cumulative number of students that are, who's going out versus who's coming in. And we see that that's, with this year included, we have an overall increase. You can see that our incoming students are increasing. We did have a slight increase in our outgoing students this year as well, compared to the previous 2 years. Overall, we're looking at 3.4% of our student enrollment, more students coming in than going out, and that's an increase from 2.4 last year. Okay. That's all I have for you.
So I have a question for you to put on the spot, and then everybody over here. So what do we do with this data? Are these numbers improving because we're communicating better? I look at some of this, I look and think, well, it's kind of constant, kind of the same. We sort of said, well, we have these grade cluster elementary schools and people go away, but they come back at middle school or high school. And I've heard that for a decade. I will tell you, back in the day, the first principal, Dr. Heller at Rebley School, had a overt, frequently stated strategy of he was looking for disaffected private school families. He was finding people from St. Rose and Healdsburg School and the Montessori schools and Sonoma Country Day schools. So I wonder this is good, thank you. It's not to criticize the report, but my question, I think as I'm seeing it again and again is, so what should we do about this? When we're looking at, X amount per student for ADA, from a sheer business model and the efficiency for the economies of scale. Once we have students in, there's additional sort of net revenue because we already have services and staffing in place, and we get a few more in, we can bring some more teachers and classified staff that we've been celebrating. But what should we be doing about this, if anything? And what either policy adjustments or strategy changes or financial investments do you see us doing to do something about this, if this is something we should do something about? Yeah. It was the hummus that got me going.
Right? Man, what's in that hummus? So I think that we're doing a few different things already, Bill. And I think you know some of those things, right? We have invested in our early education. We've expanded TK ahead of everybody else, trying to capture those students, say, look how great we are, so they don't try somewhere else. I will say that with our cluster school model, I don't think we have anybody coming from outside that's saying, I want to go to Windsor because you have a cluster school model. I haven't heard that. I'm not sure if you have, Allison. I know that we do lose students because they don't like the cluster school model. I think that needs to be reviewed, looked at, and we're doing that through the Facility Master Plan Committee. I know that's the plan. That's a loaded topic, as we all know, but I think that it is time that we at least review it and have the conversation. I think, again, the overall strategies have to be marketing who we are. We have great teachers. We have great schools. There's misnomers that our class sizes are larger than others. It isn't true. We have more aid coverage in our kindergarten and TK classrooms than Mark West, for instance, but the view even last year was that they had more. It simply wasn't rooted in fact. I think that we have to invest in our early education because that's where you capture parents and you keep parents. So by doing the TK plan, which was expanded, I think that was smart. But I think we have to look further. If you listen to what I said about Windsor Christian Academy, 80 of their 264 students are in PK. That's TK plus, they go down to 3 years old. I think it's an area that we have to look at. I don't think we're prepared to do that next year. I think we have some work to do, but I definitely think it's an area to look because we're a desert here for childcare, and families simply don't have the options. And so where do they go? Santa Rosa. And they make friends, and then they go where their friends went. So I think that we have to take that into consideration and try to do something that is a cost-effective preschool potentially for families. And also, we just need to market ourselves better. I don't think that we've done a very good job yet of really highlighting all of our amazing programs. I think we have a good reputation, don't get me wrong, in Windsor. We definitely do. As you can see, we have a number of interdistrict transfers, but I think we could do even better. I think that we can highlight how many of our students go on to four-year universities. I mean, I think there's a number of different ways that we could probably market better, and we are working on those things. I think it's been a very much an increased focus of the past 2 years, I'll say, and even more so this year now that we've kind of gotten beyond focusing on COVID so much. I mean, that's my on-the-spot answer for you. I could, of course, do something more succinct with some planning time, but.
No, and I was putting you on the spot because I know you're working on it, and I know we've talked about it. And I know this is with declining enrollment with our sister districts, north, south, east, and west of us. It's a competitive market. And I think we need to approach it that way. It's not meaning that we're setting up our adjacent agencies to fail or knocking them down so we can cut in line, but letting parents and students, thinking more in middle and high school where they hear ads on the paper or radio or they see those social media push-outs that, Heather, through our communication efforts may do, to say, hey, we didn't think about that. We didn't think that the only educational institution put onto the arts industry page for the county of Sonoma was the Windsor Migrant Art Program in 4 months. No other school has been highlighted in that. So I know we are. I just think, let us know, we're starting asking people when they present, what do we need to do better on this? If there's a benchmark, and I know we've talked about increasing enrollment and building our own, et cetera, I think that needs to be easily one of our top 5 priorities, and it's a long-term investment.
Absolutely.
Right? And so let us know how we can help.
And can I say one more thing, just because I didn't highlight it? So we have made a significant investment in lowering our class sizes in the TK and K realm. So we're trying to keep our kinder classrooms at 20 with a full-time assistant, which is, amazing for our district. TK as well. We're at 20, and that's not the law yet, but it will be next year, but we're just implementing the law early with also a full-time assistant. So our class sizes are really low at the TK grade levels.
All those things are good, but we need to understand that we're behind. We do have to market. There was an attitude in this district for some period of time that we're the DMV, and they will just show up and we can treat them. We don't care how long the line is, and we don't care how long it takes for them to get their license. And I'm not picking on the DMV because I just got my stuff all redone, and it doesn't, I thought when you made an appointment, that means you showed up and they took care of you. No, the appointment is when you show up to get a number to then get taken care of and what have you. But I love my friends at the DMV, and I'm going to keep loving them until my license shows up with my new thing where I can go everywhere. But anyhow, the whole point is we haven't marketed ourselves. Many, many people have asked for years, Rich, why do you only have one shirt? And I go, yeah, I have 20 of them, and they all say Windsor Wrestling on it. And they go, why do you always wear this Windsor Wrestling? I say, because I'm advertising. Everywhere I go, every time I'm at Safeway here, there, or whatever, I'm advertising Windsor Wrestling, Windsor Wrestling, Windsor, 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 right? We're getting better, but we still aren't doing enough of it. How many times, we're all Windsor people. That was one of the reasons why, when you first got here, we went and changed all our logos. Jaguars, from that cute little sucker we have now over at Maddie, all the way up to the big ferocious booger at the high school. And everything in between. Why? So we can identify our town and our school district, we're Jaguars, right? And we have our good stepbrothers and sisters over at Cali that are little eagles, I think, right? Yep. They didn't want to change. It's okay. But, they can fly around. They can tell the Jaguars where the good things to eat are. So the whole point is we're marketing. And Jeremy, to your credit, you saw things way ahead. Let's go ahead and let's get in the TK. Let's get them early. The time has come, I think, as we're going through our facilities management update, as you know, a lot of people you don't know. So folks that are listening at home, we're looking at it. There was a time when 30 years ago when I came to this town, when the idea of how we have our schools clustered, it was a good idea. It was the right idea, I think. It was a equitable idea for our community. I think the demographics in our town has changed such so that we need to actually look now at maybe, and we're going to look, and it's going to be a community discussion that we're going to bring up. So just so folks know that, we lose 200, 280, 300, we don't know for sure, but enough people go to our school to the south, our friends to the south, because they can I've had a lot of friends that say, oh, I like going there because I can drop them off. If you guys had a school where I could just drop my kids off and all 2 or 3 of them went to the same place, kindergarten through 6th grade or 5th grade, that would be awesome. Go to there and we'll bring our kids back. So it's not that they have a love for another place. They have a love for the fact that their time is precious. They go to one location, drop their kids off. So maybe that conversation needs to come back up. It's taken us 30 years to get here, but our town has changed enough in 30 years to where now we can have that discussion. That we could pick up another 200 or so kids. I know that district treats our kids really, really well, and their parents really, really well. And the reason why is because they get a 50% bump in funding on our kids that go down there. So that's great. We're treating our kids and our families the same way. So some demographic things are changing as far as how we might be educating or where we're educating our kids, possibly. But the marketing, I know that we've lost. It's weird when you see your big old face on this big old giant TV and it zooms in on you. And I'm like, man, I was wrong. It's 30 pounds on YouTube. Anyhow, I know 20 kids that aren't going to our school district this year. And the reason they're not is because there's a perception that there's a better extracurricular program somewhere else. And that extracurricular program starts off in the youth. As a town, as a district, we were negligent in understanding that we were letting a fox into our hen house and they were just shepherding our kids to another area. We've fixed that. It's being fixed. It's going to take some years, though, before the bears fruit. So to folks that wonder, we are aware of some of the challenges we have. They are not things that you can snap a finger and fix overnight, but they are things that we can fix over a shorter period of time, and we're aware of them and we're doing them. And that's part of our strategy, because if we can create whatever there's a perceived value somewhere else, and we can demonstrate that that value is actually here, or it's a better value here, then the parents will take their kids where they think that that value is best. And I believe that it's Windsor. I've always believed that it's Windsor. And I also believe that if it's not Windsor, then we better get our stuff together and we better make Windsor that better place. So, and we're doing it. I know that our board has been focused on that. I know our staff has been focused on that. We just need to get that message out a little bit more, which is why I'm talking a lot like this, so people at home might be hearing this, that we're interested. We want the kids here. But from just a business standpoint, I mean, that's a couple $1 million that we are economically leaking out of our budget, potentially by not recapturing those kids that are living here. Much less, we could have a little marketing thing like, are you tired of the commute? If you live in Santa Rosa, come to Windsor. It's reverse commute. You can get to your job and drop your kids off faster than you can go the other way. Wow. So, you like that? Reverse commute. Yeah, I come up with a good idea once in a while. So anyhow, Jackson knows how to get through that line. That's one of them. So anyhow, that's all I would say is that we are making changes. Jeremy, to your credit, I mean, a lot of people don't know this. You're very innovative. Your staff's very innovative. You think outside the box, and you're very creative on how to make things better for us. We're focused on it, and we're making things happen. Just it takes time to steer some of these things back to the right direction. So I think, Allison, to your point, I think that over time, that will improve. We do have a good magnet. Kids do come back to the high school. Kids outside of the area come to the high school. We just need to work on keeping our kids in the lower grades, and the things like the thing that's coming up with our investments at Maddie and these other things, those are all steps in rebuilding that foundation that will keep them all in our school, so. Doom.
Mic drop.
Here.
Okay, my turn. Thanks, Allison, for the presentation, and I'm going to talk about another bit, like a business aspect of this, but you're delivering the message, and this is, we appreciate you being here. I think we're just kind of trying to think creatively about what we can do going forward, especially since now we have made the investment in TK, and we have we've thought about childcare, we've thought about how to get kids here earlier, and so I'll just tell you a little story about something that happened to me a week ago. I was in Cloverdale at a place of business, and I was chatting with the person that I was talking to who does not want to be part of this example. Hi, Eric. So I'm not going to say who they were, where I was, but they said, oh, I ended up talking about being on the school board. And she said, oh, I really wanted to send my daughter to school in Windsor for middle school, but, when I went and asked, they told me that it didn't make sense for her to go there because I live in Cloverdale. So she goes to Cloverdale now. And that happened. And so obviously I gave her my email address. I said, we'll send her for high school, tried to make the pitch that I'm sorry that happened, but that's something that happened a couple years ago. And I don't know if things like that are still happening today. I don't know, because people just show up, right? They show up at a school site or they show up wherever. They don't necessarily know who to go to, who's that one point of contact who can help them. And so the point that I wanted to bring up is we can market all we want, and we should, but if we can't make it easy to buy our product, we will not sell it. And I've seen businesses, even in town, that don't make it easy to buy products, and I would hate for us to lose students because we haven't thought about the system or the process. And it can sometimes be hard. Like, I know our office staff at schools are very, understaffed right now, and they don't have a lot of bandwidth. And I had another experience recently at a school site where it took a really long time to talk to office staff, which is another issue for another day, but that took 45 minutes. And so if that's happening, I could imagine if someone comes to stop by and learn more during the middle of the day, they might not have anyone to talk to. And there's no way for them to get this in. There probably is online somewhere, maybe inter-district transfer information, but that to me is like a really, that's a key area.
I can speak to that a little bit.
Yeah, thank you.
So a few years ago, that was absolutely a concern. I think we've done a good job of streamlining that process better now. We had to go back and forth a lot in the past between students wanting to come to our district and the district that they lived in, the boundaries that they lived within. I think we've streamlined that process a lot better. And I think all of our site people know who to send those parents to now when they have those questions about inter-district transfers, because there's only so many questions the site can answer, and so then they come to us at the district office. So I think it's tightened up.
And it's been a focus of ours. So, of course, I heard about this when I came in. It was a major, Trustee Carnation told me plenty about this. And so we've made it clear to the sites that we'll take the kids and we're going to figure it out afterwards. Whereas before it was, let's make sure we have a space for those students and tell the families, well, we're going to have to figure this out and not guarantee that you're coming. Just changing that small message is major. Saying, yeah, you're in, and then we figure it out on the back end. So, and that's been, I would say the past 2 years for certain. And even the first year we started making that shift, at least when I came. I won't speak to before I was here.
But I just think that kind of with our parent demographic that we have now, there needs to be a button you can press on the website that takes you to that person who can help you.
We do have that on the website too, with the inter-district transfer
and
forms.
it's really clear where it is.
I think so, but I also know where it is, so maybe we can look at that,
you click on it and it gives you an email address, or it gives you a contact form
It gives you the
to fill out.
contact and the form.
Okay.
in English and Spanish.
Kind of like, well, when I was younger.
Yeah.
And the military wanted you to join,
Make it as easy as
enlist.
possible.
No, they had a, we want you, they had a big old, we want you kind of a thing, and you pressed the little button, but they didn't have buttons back then. They just wanted you forever. And so, but to your point, Stephanie, I think it's really good. We should have put it on the front page.
Like on the homepage, there should be, do you want to come to school in Windsor?
Mark West
Click.
has that
Yeah.
on their front page.
They do?
Yeah, and I actually ran into Superintendent Valenzuela recently at an event, and she's like, oh, so you guys have a TK program now. So they're noticing, but we need
Well,
to,
we've
to
gotten-
get those millennial parents
We have
and
Marquette students.
Gen Z parents to press the button and say, like, I don't know if we have Gen Z parents. We probably do. But, you know, they're doing stuff online. So
Yes.
let's make sure that it's like very clear.
Can I just say one thing? And I'm sure Alison knows about this, because I deal with a lot of the parents who call saying, I want to bring my kid to your school district. How do I do that? And one of the things I find that they get put off with really easily, is they have to start at their home district. They can't start with us. They have to go back to their home district, and they have to be released by their home district before we can do anything for them at all. And that very often the answer is, oh, I don't want to do that. Oh, I don't want to have to go and talk to them.
Except at Cali, because it's a charter, which is why Mark West has chartered almost all of their schools. Cali, you do not have to get permission to go to Cali. It's the benefit to keeping Cali as a charter.
Which is also one of the reasons why, at the last school board thing we went down to in San Diego, they talked about how a lot of districts are actually now looking to go and have that opportunity to charterize all your schools, so that way they don't have that, Jim, what you just talked about, that hurdle is removed. So,
But to your point, Stephanie, I think it's well taken. In fact, Pete and I were talking about recruitment of classified staff earlier and how we need to make it easier for people to apply for our jobs, because it's pretty complicated to apply for a school job. And even for families, I can see what you mean, where if we had a button, you click it, and it's a name, you're interested to come, and we simply call that person and talk to them because it's fast. I think that we can do things like that better, and I think we can do it easily. So thanks for bringing it up and making us think.
all right, everybody, Eric, you got, Eric?
I don't know.
Gotcha. Yeah.
I could actually speak to it really quickly if I'll be real brief.
Oh, no.
But I did go to Windsor Christian for my first, very first 2 years, so probably, 3 and 4 maybe. And then I went over to Reebly and Mark West for K through 5, and then came back to the middle school for 6 through 8, high school 9 through 12. And that was kind of always just the expectation. My family basically decided probably way back when I first went to Reebly that was what I was going to do, just because they didn't love which is now 3-year, 3-year, the 2-year, 2-year, 2-year split. So that's probably our biggest weakness. I think adding TK is great because that gets people in the district earlier, which is the best way to keep them. But I do think that if I didn't have that expectation of I will be going to the middle school in 6th grade, that maybe I would have stayed in Mark West just because that's where all the people I knew were, and that would have been probably easier for me. I mean, I'm glad that I'm here for sure, but I think that anything that we can do to keep people or start people here and keep them there makes it just easier to keep them all the way through than hoping that they come back, because that's a lot harder for people to do.
No, you're absolutely right, Jackson.
And I want to make one more point, which I forgot to make earlier, which is that if we add preschool at Maddie, then that program is not that short anymore. If you start as a 3-year-old and leave as a 7-year-old, you're there for 5 years. So if we added a 2-year-old program, which I'll just put that nugget.
we would work with 4Cs potentially. We've already talked about it, just so you know. 6 months to 2 years is the program that they run. It's a different credential, different requirements,
Yeah.
and they are credentialed to do it with their Maddie staff already. So
Yeah.
we would be partnering potentially. We're not there yet,
Yeah,
but we've had
but-
the discussion.
That's a 6-year program potentially. So at that point, you're really building a long program, and then 3 years at Brooks and 3 years at the middle school. It doesn't seem, that's so far down the road that it's not as much of a factor anymore.
You're saying?
Okay, Allison, thank you very much. I want to open this up to public comment if there is any, really quick. Seeing none, thank you.
Good job, guys.
I'll bring it back. That is just a presentation, so there's nothing to do. So, thanks, Allison. We'll move on to I'm sorry. Oh, okay. I'll move on to 5.4, consideration of the first reading of the governance handbook. Superintendent Decker?
I don't have a ton to present here. This is what we discussed at our special board meeting. I've taken the feedback that the board gave to me and I've incorporated into the document. This is just a first reading, so you can give me any other feedback based on, what I've incorporated. If there isn't major change, if there aren't major changes, then I'd bring this back on consent next meeting. If there are major changes, then I'd probably bring it back again for discussion and then approval in the same item.
I don't know if this is major, but I thought when we met about it, we were going to move the ending time to, I think it was.
9:30.
Was it 9:30 we moved to, or was it 10?
That's what board
I thought?
policy is. I thought I put 9:30 in there. Did I miss it?
No, you have 9:30, and then you have the board policy that's 9:30, but I thought we had talked about maybe making it 10, so that way.
Oh, I may have missed that. I thought
Or
I
am
was
I-
just abiding by board policy, so I
Yeah.
may have missed that. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so we were going to change that to 10.
Okay.
And then change the board policy to match.
Got it.
that.
I missed that. I'm sorry.
So I don't know if that's a major thing or not.
I think that's pretty straightforward.
So, what's that, was it?
We can write that in without redoing the whole.
That was my only.
Yeah, that's my fault. I didn't realize
And
that.
I was going to take that little thing out where it says bad decisions are made after 9 o'clock.
Okay. Did I leave that in too?
Yeah.
Okay. We'll get that out too.
So,
Yeah, thank you. I think we have it as a good
Yeah.
place. That's a good structural document. I think now we can pivot from that. I like that it has, your evaluation parameters very clear. People can see that. I see us now pivoting for the implementation of those, metrics for measuring and getting all that feedback, and hopefully, I'd rather have the governance on consent, and then, maybe carve some time out at our next meeting to talk about the feedback on those pillars and the metrics and the measurements that we talked about in our workshop.
Okay.
Yeah.
so do we need to do anything with that, Jeremy? Or
Nope. This was just feedback from me, just make sure you didn't have anything major for me to change. So I'll
Okay.
bring this back next time on consent with the change that you guys recommended.
Okay, anybody else have any comments? We're all good? All righty, great. Thank you very much. Again, we're going to move to 5.5, the compost presentation by Austin.
All right, I got you guys for the next, can you guys hear me? Mm-hmm. Okay, got you guys for the next 5 items, so lucky you guys. That's me. There it is, cool. All right, so this is the compost presentation. The bill is actually SB 1383. This is gonna be a transparent presentation and probably pretty short as well. But I don't think you guys have actually heard from the administration on the compost law. So this is the update. This is what the law is. I'm going to go through that. I'm going to go through what we're doing. I'm going to go through the goals, and then I'm going to go through the challenges, truthfully, that we're facing. And I have a great custodian in here that's helped implement it. So what is SB 1383? So effective January 1st, 2022, schools are going to be required to prevent or reduce organic waste. So that is the law, is that by 2022, we are having to reduce waste. Now, written in the law is that there's goals of a reduction of 75% by 2025. But again, those are our goals, and the requirement for us is to start reducing. And then, again, there's an additional goal in there of 20% of food eaten in 2025 will be that disposed surplus food, kind of like what we were talking about earlier with the food service. And then effective January 2024, this goes back into the food service presentation, schools are going to be required to recover that edible food and then donate it to like food recovery programs similar to the Redwood Food Bank. And that's also why Jen has reached out to Redwood Food Bank and gotten in touch with them because she knows this law is coming. And she had started this program, like a food recovery program at her old district. So I kind of had the right woman in the job for it. And then it also requires counties to take the lead on planning, collaborating, and then training jurisdictions on organic waste implementation. That's important because if you look at the organizational structure almost of, like, let's say Sonoma Resource Recovery, which does these as well, they have kind of like their head people, and then under them they have outreach coordinators. And so a lot of their job is not just internal, they're almost similar to a county office of education where they have an internal side, but then they also have an external side that goes out, helps train us, helps get everything kind of flipped over to the new processes. And it's very similar to a county office.
Before you go past, I mean,
Go
that
ahead.
second green principle, the January 2024, I look and say, oh, it's a long time off. That means we have to have this program in place before we start the next school year, because that's the 23-24 school year, and that's 6 months into the school year. So that's 15 months from now, but it's really, you need to be telling us as we're doing budget development in the spring, what the implementation of something, which when I look at 2024, it seems so far away.
Yeah.
It's not.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
It's
you're
meetings
right.
4 to 6 months from now.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
No, you're spot on. Okay. I was like, I swear I have more slides. All right. So some of the local challenges. One, as Bill mentioned, it's coming up quick. But two, there's no compost facility within Sonoma County. So the organic waste goes to Ukiah, and the Ukiah processing plant, the facility is expected to close, and then Novato is the next closest. And that is from the information that I am getting. The reason why that's important is because if you think about a commercial large dumpster, right, the big ton dumpsters, it limits the amount of weight you can put in there. So, usually you just put a big organic waste dumpster outside of the food service, and they go and they, unfortunately put the food in until 2024. But they put the food in there. We're having to now kind of change over our trash actual carts, the 96 gallon, and I have a picture of it on the next one so you can see. But so the tons, because there's no compost facility in Sonoma County, and we have to travel a long way, we're not allowed to put more than 10% of that waste as food waste. So we're having to buy but we're under the agreement as long as we don't surpass it, the 96 gallon carts. And so we're playing this shuffle game of swapping out trash cans for green carts and vice versa. Go ahead, Rich.
Do you know why we don't have a compost place around here? As
No.
big as our county is?
No, and it's interesting. I don't know. I don't have the answer for that. Yeah, go
There
ahead.
used to be one up on, I think it's Petaluma Hill. No, it's not.
That's
I'm-
where the-
I'm
that's
thinking
where
of
the
the
main-
wrong name of the road.
It's called Meacham. The Meacham.
Yes.
The dump.
That's the dump. Isn't that where they?
It was,
Oh,
there
wasn't
was a compost place, and you could buy, what is it that you make?
Mulch.
Mulch. You could buy
Are
different
you-
kinds of mulch, but I think it closed down.
Um,
Well, I don't know.
It could be. I will say that, and I think I have it on the next slide, but not Wasteless Windsor, Zero Waste Sonoma takes up to Ukiah, and then from Ukiah, all the compost in Windsor comes back to Windsor and then is given out to free to the local farmers and wineries. So they do have that process. Maybe, no, am I thinking something different?
Except that's closing here imminently.
Is it?
Well,
what
that's the
it says right
Ukiah
there.
processing facility that's expected to
Yes.
close.
Correct. And so I've actually, go ahead.
When you're getting a 40 superintendents talk, I would really urge you to make a meeting with Sonoma Waste Management or the county administrators or Jim Gore, who's the chair of the Board of Supervisors, and say, we're the biggest county of these 3 counties. For us to drive our food waste to Ukiah to then drive it down to Novato is crazy. And schools can get a large voice in that with your 75,000 students, and that's insane. I think Rich was thinking that can't be right. I agree with him, but
No, that's why
I don't know how
really-
that happened. But now there's a law for us to comply without the capacity in the biggest county north of the bay. So
Well, my little entrepreneurial thing is going like, wait a minute, if all of it's coming from here, being Santa Rosa, Petaluma, Windsor, and we're trucking it up there, we're trucking it down there, there might be a need for one of those.
they're
little-
driving it right by property on Silo Road.
Yeah, Bill, it's funny how you mentioned, I just, ding.
Okay,
And like I
that's all.
said,
Well, no, I mean,
dis-
that's why I
yeah.
was curious. This
Yeah.
doesn't sound right.
Yeah, I want to make sure it's clear though that the impact on us because of it is the amount that we can put into the cans.
Right.
But yeah, it's surprising.
So I did have, if you can go back one or two slides, they talked about the reduction, the one right before that, though.
Go ahead, right there.
So, yeah, so
Yeah.
to Brad's point and the discussion we had earlier,
Yeah.
if our share tables and those different things, if we're not, I know that these are the goals of the bill, but are we doing better than that already? Do we even know yet?
No, so the bill requires us to reduce from whatever the current level is, and so it's actually good for
Oh,
us.
so if we were already doing well, they want us to do even weller?
Bingo,
I know
you
that's
got
not a
it.
good word, but that
And
is.
actually, Cali's a
or
perfect
more better
example
good, right.
because Cali has a great program implemented that's been headed up by Brad and Christine Behrens and so many other people. Even I have to give Sonoma Resource Recovery credit as well because Claire Becker was amazing in it. But so they headed up the program at Cali, but then you look at the high school and there's not even really recycle bins. So okay. But so anyway, yeah, I've lost my track.
I'm
Screw
sorry.
me up, Jeremy.
Yeah, let's keep
I'm just
going.
kidding.
I
All right, I'm sorry.
apologize.
Let's keep going. All right. All right, so this is Brooks Elementary. So where we are at currently with this law is we've implemented it pretty close to fully at Brooks. We'll go through the kind of the areas that we're still missing. But for the most part, that setup that you see on the picture on your left is that little gallon thing with the trash bag. That's for milk. So they put in the poured milk into there. They compost the items that they can. So you can see the picture on the right. They're taking out the carrots out of the packaging. They're putting the carrots away. One of the things we're working on in food service is hopefully buying things like apples, not in the prepackaged we had talked about. And so that's all the conversations we're having. Again, when you're in a co-op, you're kind of bound. And that's why Jen and I are looking at other co-ops as well. There's a lot of moving factors when looking at co-ops. But we're bound in these mass agreements. And so usually, you kind of have a limit on things. And that's why we're starting to look and kind of do that cost differential. But so then you have, they kind of go through that line. I had a great picture of the custodian there, Renee, and he has to stand there very similar to Brad, where he has to stand there and help the kids go through and kind of teach them how to do it and go through the process. And I think it's awesome. I think it's cool to see a custodian out there working with the kids, teaching them how to do all of it. I know Brad loves doing it. So anyway, Brooks is up and running. So Brooks and Cali now are the two sites that are doing it. So as we look at celebrations, so one, the Committee for Change at the high school, they've drawn out a full map. I was just there on Tuesday talking to them, and they've drawn out a full map on what they're going to do at the high school. The issue right now, and I'm just being totally transparent, is we're having some cleanliness little issues at the high school, and it's mainly because of custodial shortages. So I don't know if right now, truthfully, I'm just being honest, is the time to implement something that could attract more rodents or whatever it may be. And we're not having rodent issues, but I don't want that to become an issue. So anywho, the Committee for Change at the high school has been amazing. And then, of course, the custodians, Renee, he's the one that I just mentioned, obviously Brad, but also Maria and Pablo and Mario. Maria and Pablo, they're the two at Maddie Washburn. And so we've already talked to them about how they're going to line it up. It's going to be very similar to Brooks, very similar to Cali. Those sites are usually the easiest to handle, and they're meant and they're set up in a way that the students are able to filter through. A lot of the tougher issue, though, is the supervision as the kids are going through and then helping them, right? We forget that these kids are 4, 5, 6, 7 years old, so they need help as they go through. And then you kind of having to teach them why and teach them at a young age, but it's important. So, have to celebrate our custodians a little bit for that. And then, of course, Wasteless Windsor has been amazing. They came into Brooks last year. We were on top of this in the spring and had Wasteless Windsor JP Leap. Is it JP or JB? JB Leap. So JB came in and he did presentations and trainings with all the staff members and students at Brooks, taught them how to do it, what goes in what, and we're kind of ahead of the process, at least at Brooks, with that. And I believe he's also been to Cali a few times. Has he? Brad, do you know JB Leap? Kind of so. Okay. And then Zero Waste Sonoma's been great too. Zero Waste Sonoma's almost at a higher level, almost like a political type firm, whereas Wasteless Windsor is very Windsor focused, and they're involved in the community and helping the kids. They're awesome. So goals moving forward. So one, a goal for Maddie Washburn to complete the similar process of composting the brooks. So kind of what the process looks like, because it sounds simple, right? Oh, just get the kids to throw it in the bins, get the bins set up, and then we're good to go. Well, it's not that simple because we're in an agreement with the town that's paying for our trash. So we're slowly having to flip over trash and composting as the kids are becoming more and more aware of how to do things. Go ahead, Eric.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I missed the earlier part of the meeting, and it may have been discussed at that time. Is there a possibility of kind of cutting out the middleman and our stuff that we gather from the students can go to farmers directly? Have we explored that at all, or other districts doing something like that?
Good question. And no, I'm not aware of anyone doing that. I think it's a great idea.
Saves us the travel in Ukiah.
It does. I will say, just off the top of my head, it would take up extra labor hours and time and mileage from our staff because it's the waste company that goes up to Ukiah. But I think it is an option possibly to maybe have a separate thing and then do, cut out the middleman. I think it's a great idea. Go ahead.
When I was in 4-H and FFA, when I was a kid,
Yeah.
Our family, we went down, that was one of the things we did, late at night, Spears Market, they would put all their waste products for all their fruits and vegetables out that they didn't sell that were damaged or whatever, they'd put them out in boxes. Me and my brother, we'd go down there in the truck, we'd fill the thing up, exactly, we'd go up and we'd throw it in the bins, and did it late at night. We did it for 8, 9, 10 years.
Yeah.
And took all that stuff. So to Eric's point, there might be some folks that are around here. Brad's got a point maybe, but
Yeah.
hold on a second, Brad. But I'll open it to public comment in just a minute. But that might be something, but I think it's something that we might have to, Jeremy might have to talk to our town manager and make sure that there's some way that we can maybe do that and not violate our agreement with, there's always an agreement somewhere.
Right.
But anyhow, that, if and that could count towards our reduction as well. So,
We can look into it for sure.
okay.
And then, so the goal of implementation for Maddie Washburn, they're pretty much complete. We already have the amount of cans that they need, how they're going to set it all up. Custodians are aware, and they're going to be helping the kids as they go through. The goal of full implementation at Maddie is 10/21. So that's October 21st. That should be before the next board meeting, I believe. Windsor Middle School is, we're kind of stepping our way up, right? Windsor Middle School becomes, more sporadic. The kids don't go through a line. They're out and oh gosh, I'm blanking on what it's called. What is it called where the kids eat, that little like stage area? Anyway. Yeah, is it the stage area? Yeah. Well, there's like an open area there and the kids kind of, yeah, it's like a little amphitheater area with the grass, yeah. So they all eat on that same side where the basketball, they're more free to walk around similar to the high school. And so that implementation, we already have a plan for that, to start implementing that. It's just getting the cans out there and onto cans. So new trash bins for all classrooms. Those were ordered in early August. So we went through and ordered trash, recycle, and compost for every classroom within the district, kind of similar to what you see there. So every classroom is going to have that same setup, all new trash bins, everything. The problem is they're all back ordered. And so I asked today for an update. We were in all of our meetings today, and sure enough, there's still no expected delivery date. So we're running into supply chain issues as well. So anyway, those are some of our kind of implementation timelines moving forward. And that's all I have for you guys. Do you guys have any additional questions before we open it up?
Nope. Thanks, Elsa. If you want to hang out, just so that I know Brad had a comment.
Definitely, yeah.
I'd like to open up to public comment.
Brad Freeland, lead custodian at Kalakameka. We actually had a program last year where we had small buckets on the table for the food the kids didn't want or eat. And we lost our staff who was doing the program. They were taking it to Wild Acre Farms for chicken feed. And I can't tell you how much was going, but it was easily 20 gallons of food. And then I shared Last year, with our compost program, we were eliminating about 2 tons of organic waste every 2 days at Cali. The issue we're having right now is there's about 10% trash in that. So we're really struggling with enough staff to work with them. I have a group of high school students with the NCC program that come to me on Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. They don't come on Wednesday. And they're learning job skills. They're special needs students, so they are helping the younger kids put the stuff in the right bins. And it's fabulous to watch these kids interact with the younger kids. So I don't know if we have more students at Windsor High School that are in that program that could help at other sites. That would be unique. They walk to Cali because we're close enough to the high school, but they're learning job skills that they can use in the real world. They are graduates, but they don't have the functionality to be in a real job at this point. So it's something valuable. The other issue we ran into, I don't know if any of you knew, we had a heat wave a little while ago. The organic bins were overgrown with maggots. And because of that heat, we had a lot of issues with flies and everything else. So that's something we've had to learn. I had agreement previously when Claire was there where they would pick up our organic bins Thanksgiving week and clean them and bring them back, and then the same thing during spring break. So
Thanks,
these are
Brad.
things we've learned.
You remember when you cut me off last night? You said my time was up? I'm getting to do it back to you now. Thanks, Brad. Hey, to your point, Brad, maybe, or somebody, whoever's listening, we had that same issue with a little bit of paper and what have you, packaging paper with the fruits and vegetables. So we always fed it to our pigs. And the pigs, they will eat the food and they will disregard the trash. And once a week we would go in and we would just clean up the little bits of trash that were in the pigs won't eat the trash, but they'll eat everything around it except for the trash. So waste products, food waste products that actually have a little bit of trash and debris in it is excellent for the pigs because they will eat it, they will eat the food and they will leave the trash and it's easy to clean up. So I don't know who's growing pigs around this area, but I'm sure there's somebody. Anyhow, thank you all very much. We will move on now to the next.
I had a couple clarifying questions.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. I know you're still up here, so it's fine. But I just wanted to make sure I understood a couple points from the slides.
For sure.
So I think one is the legal requirement is that we need to, in addition to composting more, we also need to reduce the amount of composting that we're doing. Is that? or there's, like-
Correct. They call it like small climate particles, or I can't remember what it is, but basically there's these particles. I can't tell you how much research I've done in this stuff. They produce like 80% more methane than gasoline does, or something like that. I know, Rich. I know you're getting a crack up, especially with your diesel truck. Anyway, Stephanie, yes, the law is that we have to reduce starting the 22nd through the 24th, and that's just the law.
Or reduce
There's
the
no-
amount of food waste, not composting that we're
organic
doing.
waste. So it includes like food scraps, but also
Okay.
wood, and then like organic carpet is included in that. Again, I got all this in my head and I don't know why.
Okay, no,
But I
that's
do.
helpful. So I was just thinking about our earlier conversation when we were talking about not wasting as much food. It seems like
Correct.
that is actually pertinent to this new requirement.
100%.
because-
No, you guys were spot on.
Okay, great.
You're jumping the gun. You guys are.
And then the other question I had, I just wanted to confirm, so the reduced size containers that we have is part of an agreement we made because we don't have up to 20% food waste. We have more than that. So because of that, we have to use the 96-gallon bins. We can't use the ton because we're doing almost completely food waste, right? Is that, and it's, the
Not a-
agreement is with the.
Not
like,
exactly.
Okay.
So we can't just, like, let's say I wanted to, well, let's start with the 10%. So I can't just have a 8-ton trash like dumpster that, they go and throw all their bags in. And I can't just fill that with food waste because there's no compost facility in Sonoma County. So now it's limited to 10% for those big dumpsters. So we're having to get a lot of smaller 96-gallon, kind of like your residential household cart, similar to that picture that was shown. So we're having to get more of those. But what's tricky about it is because we're in the town of Windsor's trash agreement, we can't just get a bunch of the green ones, or we can be charged more. But we've talked about how it'd be kind of tricky because part of the agreement is that we're going to stay under a certain amount. But so we can't just add a bunch of extra greens without breaking that agreement. So we're trying to play this game of reducing the trash while adding the greens. I know it's kind of complicated. Am I making sense? Are you tracking?
Yeah.
Okay, I want to make sure you're tracking. So we're maybe that rule was true after 9 o'clock. I do get dumber, but.
We're not making a decision.
Yeah, no, you're good. But so anyway, that's, yeah.
Technically, it's a
Yes.
different thing.
Anyway, so that's the thing with the town of
So
Windsor.
there are lots of considerations. We have the agreement with the trash company, we have the agreement with the town, we have all these pricing things that we have to
Correct.
keep in mind, and this new rule, and, okay, so it's
Yes.
complicated.
It is. So yeah.
Okay,
Waste algebra.
yeah.
And it's one of those that I don't want to I initially was just going to rip the Band-Aid off at the beginning of the school year. We had a full rollout plan. We had Target Solutions training for all staff, which I know they're probably sitting at home not listening, but they would hate to hear that. But there's additional training that I was going to do for all staff as well that was going to be mandatory for composting. And we were just going to rip the Band-Aid off and start fresh. But then when, Brad had enough. When Claire Becker left, that plan went sideways because she was our outreach coordinator and they still have not hired for that position. So she was amazing. She was, she basically started the Cali program.
Got it. Thank you for answering my questions.
Cool. Thank you,
We can
Stephanie.
Move on.
All right, thank you, Austin. You
Yeah.
don't get to go anywhere. But now that we've gone through the discussion part of our agenda, which is important. We only meet, this is when we got to go through those things. We actually have 5 issues now that we get to do the action on, and these should actually go really fast because we've already all read everything and we know what we're ready to do on. So Austin, if we can move to 6.1, consideration and approval of resolution 2023-02, establish fund number 12.
Correct. So Windsor last year had submitted a California State Preschool Program application. We were just talking about some of our plans to try to increase enrollment and capture those students. Well, we got approved for it, so that's great. The only thing, though, is the California State Preschool Program is its new fund. It doesn't fall under the general fund, so it's similar to, let's say, CalMCAC, since they're a charter school. It's similar to food services, where it just is under a different fund. Not deferred maintenance, but, deferred maintenance is one of them. But anyway, it's under a new fund. So we have to establish a new fund within the county. This is the resolution to do so, and it's part of the California State Accounting Manual that you track these expenditures and revenues in a separate fund.
Very good. I'd like to make a motion that we approve this resolution.
I'll second the motion.
Any discussion? Thank you, Bill. Is there any public comment on this resolution? All right, I'll bring it back to the board. And Jen, if you could have a roll call, please.
Rich Carnation,
Yes?
Eric Heights,
Yes.
Stephanie Ahmad,
Yes.
Bill Adams.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. I wasn't sure if you were going to wait until he added you on or not.
So that'd be, 4-0 and 1, or 4-0 plus 1. Very good. 6.1 passes. We're going to move to 6.2, consideration of approval of resolution 2023-03 for a commitment of funds. Austin, this is the next one.
Yep. So there's a little bit of cleanup with this one. In June, we had gone to a board meeting and we kind of got some direction on cleaning up our budget a little bit for transparency. So we had decided to commit certain funds to TK for all 4-year-olds and then also the WELL program because they were the unknowns. And so we wanted to make sure that we were being financially sound. So we committed those funds for that. But we also have a new one added on there as well. We had talked about doing it, but we wanted to have the resolution we had to have the resolution come later. So this is the resolution coming. But we also wanted to commit funds for TK facilities. So we were denied a grant to implement new TK facilities. We ranked a 0 on it. So obviously at some point we might need new TK facilities, and so we're going to hopefully commit funds for that purpose, as it's clear that's a need for that.
Very good. Again, I'll make a motion that we approve this resolution 2023-03.
I'll second as well.
Yeah, just, okay, thank you, Austin. And then I'll open up for public comment. Seeing none, I'll bring it back. Jen, if we could have a vote, please.
Rich Carnation?
Yes.
Eric Heitz?
Yes.
Stephanie Ahmad?
Yes.
Bill Adams?
Yes.
Jackson Caligari?
Yes.
Very good, thank you. See, I knew these would go like quick. Now we're at consideration of approval of 2021, 2022 unaudited actual financial statements from Austin. And actually, while you're not saying anything, Austin, I'm just going to say, folks, if you're watching at home, sometimes people ask questions, say, hey, we don't see your budgets, we don't see your numbers, you're not being transparent. This is 84 pages of transparency. If you want to know where every penny is, it's in these things. You just got to ask and you got to look for them. So there's no funny business going on. It's here. If you want to see them, they're here. And and if you have any questions, Austin's your guy to ask.
100%. Okay, so these are unaudited actuals. What I love about unaudited actuals is there's no budget, there's no assumptions. It's what actually happened. And well, it's funny, most CBOs love it. I don't particularly love it. I do like the fact that I get to see what actually happened. And for me, Windsor, this is my first year closing the books here. So I get to touch every penny and see exactly, kind of how I first saw our processes working, and if the stuff was going to fall out, how principals kind of came at the end of the year with spending money. There's just certain areas that you just learn how the organization rolls. So this was a fun, this was a good closing of the books for me. It was the most fun I've had closing the books ever. So
Just for the good of the order, we closed the books on June 30 for the fiscal year. This does not include anything since June 30 for this current year. This is all old history, right?
correct. Yeah, you're absolutely correct, Eric. Thank you for that. Yes, this is for last year, 21-22 school year. And again, no budget. This is what actually happened. So what are unaudited actuals? It's for the 21-22 school year, and these are unaudited because they haven't been audited yet. So our auditors now have come in and audited it, but you guys will get the audit report in December. They basically go through and they audit and make sure that we're not doing anything sneaky, that we're not hiding money, that we're not, I'm not writing myself personal checks and getting new cars, that I still drive my beat up Elantra with 175,000 miles. But anyway, making sure I'm not doing any of that. And then you have budget versus actuals. Again, so this is actuals and then assumptions versus what is. So we have all these assumptions throughout the years, and I kind of, we would talk about all those, and this is what actually happened. So, I'm not going to read any of the numbers to you guys, but you guys can look it over. Truthfully, we had a big discrepancy between estimated and actuals. Like I said, there's stuff that you kind of learn at end of the year about how a district rolls. One of the things that I want to touch upon is, so we overestimated revenues, but we also overestimated expenditures. A lot of that, if you're doing it in your head, is because we had a lot of restricted funds that you don't get them until you spend them. So most of them are reimbursable. So if we had overestimated expenditures, then revenues are going to be underestimated. I hope that makes sense. But again, excess deficiency. So out of that 1 million that we have a surplus, all of that but 20,000 was restricted funds. So basically the restricted funds that we did get the money up front, that's exactly what it is, and we decided not to spend certain pots of that money. Restricted funds are, again, CTE, their COVID funds, their California Partnership Academy funds, their special education, it's routine restricted maintenance, all things that are required by law and that you can only spend the money on very specific purposes. We were actually in unrestricted, which is like our structural integrity of our budget that, we give ongoing raises, benefits, whatever it may be. We were actually just right at 20,000 negative, so very balanced overall. So that kind of highlights all of that for you guys. Is there any questions kind of looking at those numbers at all?
No question, just like really quickly.
Go ahead, Rich.
In any kind of organization, when you have a drop in revenues,
Yes, sir.
sometimes your expenditures stay the same. This is really, really good. So we had a drop for every dollar of revenue that we went down. We had a $2, almost a $2 drop in expenditures.
Correct.
So that's a really good ratio.
Yeah.
Which tells us that we're actually doing things pretty well.
Yeah.
As an organization. So that's we didn't have the revenue, we didn't have the need, so we also didn't have the expenditure that go along with it. So that tells me that we're doing things well and we're healthy in that regard.
100%.
And just so we're clear, the expenditures for 21, 22 included the current upgraded MOUs, because they had a 21, 22, not retroactive, it covered that fiscal year.
Correct,
So that's
yes,
in there as well.
that is in there as
additional
well.
expense of the
100%.
staff upgrades. Okay,
Yes.
good.
So, Austin,
Yes,
just
sir.
for the public, so that bottom right corner is unassigned, it's not restricted, it's extra money, basically.
Yes, sir.
It's $658,000 extra.
Mm-hmm.
What happens to that?
Well, good
Does that
question.
roll over? Do we put that somewhere? Do we give that as bonuses or raises, or what, what are the options for that extra 600,000 that we didn't think we'd have?
Yeah. So I think, so one of the misconceptions, about unassigned is that you're able to pay for ongoing things with it. And so we had talked about, if you look at, for instance, I'm trying to figure out how to word this, but yes, we had an extra 658,000 of unassigned, but that's also if you looked at the assigned and or restricted. Like if you actually look at the amount of unrestricted fund balance that we have, it went down from last year. So on the left is estimated 7.1. That's what I had estimated, and then the actuals is 7.8. Because that money is just a savings account, it can't be used for ongoing expenses because we won't have it next year. Let's say we spent that $7.8 million on, let's say I wanted to give Jeremy a $7.8 million raise, which I would not recommend, but let's say I did it, right? I wouldn't be able to give him that same raise next year because it's not ongoing. But we could do something like TK facilities or build TK facilities or buy furniture for the classrooms, things that are more one-time within nature. So I hope that answers your question, Eric.
Yes, I understood that, but I wanted to make sure others might
Yes.
understand that as well. It's not just extra money that we found, it's certain ways we
Yeah.
can use that money.
100%. And there is one more thing that I want to touch upon. As a board, when I first got here, Lois, the first 2-hour conversation I had with her was going over the fact that, Windsor was deficit spending, Cali was deficit spending, and it was something that we had to watch coming out of FICMAT. And so I do want to give you guys recognition for the fact that we had a very balanced budget. Obviously, we had an excess and restricted money, but a lot of times you can't really help that. The unrestricted is what matters, and that was almost perfectly balanced. So I do want to give you guys credit for that as well, especially coming out of those tough times. So moving on to Cali. So again, the left is what was estimated back in, well, I was doing it in May, but presented it in June. And then what actually happened in September. And so the actuals for Cali, as you can see, extremely balanced again. Yep. Overall, the actuals in the middle is what matters. And so 48,000 negative. Again, that includes the retroactive raise for last year as well. And you see the same thing with revenues and expenditures. Rich, you see the 1 to almost 3 ratio where sometimes they didn't spend all the COVID money that they were given, and I'll give it to them next year, but again, we can't get the revenue until they spend it.
And Cali, as a charter school, that is the reason they do not have to have a reserve for economic uncertainty.
Correct.
That row is
Yeah.
blank. Okay.
Yes, very good question. And one more thing that's important. Go ahead.
Even though they don't have to have that reserve, the fact that they're a charter and they're a dependent of our district, if they were having problems, we would have to, as a district, cover that, right?
Correct.
Which is what a lot of times people don't understand and say, why do you have a 5%? Why do you have more than the minimum?
Yeah.
And the reason is because the Cali doesn't show up in that number. So even though ours may look like it's 5, it really isn't 5 if you averaged it out with the expenses that are, not the expenses, but if you take Callie's numbers in. Is that correct?
You're correct, yes.
I
That
love it
is
when I'm correct.
great, Ann, yes.
So, anyhow, it's just so, because sometimes
Spot
people
on.
don't understand that they go, but if the state says we only need 3, why do you guys have 5?
Yeah.
Because we have a charter school that we have to do it, and sometimes things are prudent anyway, but
Yep.
it is not exactly
Yeah.
apples for apples
Yeah.
in that
and-
regard.
Yeah, no, you're right, Rich. And I think a lot of times when people just will go online and print off the budget, they don't go through, obviously, the 84 pages. No one does, except for me and,
We
you
actually
guys.
do too.
But, and Jackson, I know he's going to do that tonight when he gets home. But
AP statistics, right?
that's right. But yes, Rich, a lot of times that is forgotten. If Callie were to, go under, or we gave, too much money for whatever reason, and that were to go under, it would ultimately hit Windsor, and something to take into consideration. So the final one is more for fun. So Jen Baker, I'd never show you guys the food service budget because it doesn't matter. But with Jen Baker presenting tonight, there was one thing I did want to touch upon. And so this is not looking at estimated versus actuals, but this is looking at the actuals from 2021 and 21-22. So if you go back the year before, I don't want to say when Jen got here, but if you go back in 2021, we had 1.1 million in revenue and then 1.2 in expenditures. So again, this is a good example. If Callie were to go under, same with food service, it went under that year and the general fund had to pick it up. And so that expense came out of the general fund. If you look at 21-22 this year, if you look at the revenue, she more than, well, I don't want to say she, but it was more than doubled. And so when we talk about the participation, more speed, scratch cooking, all that, it's easy for our eyes to glaze over, but really you almost have to increase the quality of the food. And it's good that we're talking about locally sourced, and that was your guys' recommendation, because she thinks very similarly. And so, if the kids want it, that ups participation, we get reimbursed based off how much participation.
And I can understand now how the practical application portion of her presentation, we could afford the $38 worth of 12 meals or whatever that was, in all seriousness. That's extraordinary. I did not know. I knew we were at the cusp or a little bit encroaching into the general fund, but that's a dramatic change. Now, this is before we got 2 meals plus supper and the infusion of the additional money this year, right? This is in the
No,
old,
so-
isn't this? Right, so
Yeah. It was
we started
all
universal meals? Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
But it's interesting, we had 2.3 million, but we didn't spend $2 million of it. That she's, got a ton more money
Yeah.
and spent 30% more, even though she doubled the revenue, or the program doubled the revenue, but it's.
Never seen a district that this was not a negative balance.
Right. Oh, this is a loss leader, and it's the right thing, as Rich had eloquently said about, it's good that the kids can eat, because then they can pay attention in school.
And I'll
Now
ask-
it makes us money.
I'll ask the same question, already knowing the answer maybe. So you've got an excess down there of 728,000. Does that money get to go to the general fund, or does that go back to the food program?
No, unfortunately, it has to stay in the food program. I would love nothing more
I
than
think
to
it's
start-
good that it does that. We can buy more refrigerators and transportation and all the other things.
Yes.
And that comes out away from the general fund budget.
Yeah.
Correct.
I think before you got.
One hand, one pocket or the other necessarily, right?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, right before you got here, Eric, when she was giving her presentation, we were talking about that she'd like to try and scale things and
Yeah,
do some different.
sorry I had to be late, but
Oh, no,
that's
no,
good.
you're-
I'm glad
it's all
it's
good,
taken care of.
but we were talking about getting the infrastructure for the program with other things I don't know, can that money go towards? Probably can't, huh?
For what?
Can it go towards like freezers, refrigerators, those kind of?
can.
Oh, it can?
Yes.
So I didn't know if it could go, so it can go to hard costs then?
Yeah, so it can,
Food service, though.
So- Right.
it has to be specifically within food service, 100%. Yep. And so it can't, trust me, I'd love to build it out and cater to all the school districts around here and build a big warehouse and, be the only profitable people and then bring in a bunch of revenue. So, for obvious reasons. But yeah, no, we're not allowed to do that. It has to stay in food service. And actually, I was on the phone with my mentor telling him about this. I'm like, you're never going to believe I found a food service director that doubled their budget and I don't have to worry about it being negative. And he goes, okay, are you aware of the 3-month rule? And I said, no, what's the 3-month rule? And he goes, your fund balance can't exceed 3 months worth of expenditures in food service. He goes, you're the only one in the state that's going to have to worry about that. And I was like, I did not know that, but thank you for that. Yes. And so, Jen's been buying warmers and things like that for before and after school care. Yeah, anyway.
Coolers for the end of the line, as Brad pointed out, to put those milk containers in. Or,
Yes.
I mean, truly, those kind of things.
Yes.
And we have $750,000 to look at those innovations.
Yes.
Or take them for a run. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good.
No, it's awesome. And
Nice problem to have.
yeah, no, absolutely.
All righty, thanks, Austin.
Cool. Thanks, guys. Any questions, or you guys ask them as you go? You guys are pretty good.
Nope, we're all good.
So you need a motion for us to approve?
Correct. A
Okay,
motion for you
let's
guys to
go
approve this, yes.
Public comment real quick and then.
You want to make a motion first, or
No.
you?
Just to receive the report, basically.
No, we have to,
We
Approve
need
the
to approve it.
unaudited,
Yeah.
So I'll make a motion to approve the 21-22 unaudited actual financial statements and report.
Thank you.
Everybody's looking at me. I will make the second motion, sure, yes, thank you.
okay, I'd like to open up for public comment. Is there anyone who would like to discuss this? Seeing that Laura is not interested in this topic, we'll bring it back to the board. And is it just a simple vote? Or
Simple vote.
Yes.
Yep.
All righty. All those in favor, say aye.
All right?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, passes 4-0 and +1. All right, thank you, Austin. And now we're at 6.4. This is consideration of approval of resolution 2023-04 for the GAN limit.
All right, Jackson, you want some good homework. This is the interesting stuff. I impressed Jeremy because I actually knew what it was the first time we met. So the GAN limit, Paul Gann implemented it. It basically limits the amount of government spending that is allowed. I think I mentioned it last year when I was up here presenting that the state of California was going to hit it. Sure enough, they did, and that's why they're giving the gas rebate and all that jazz back. It can only go back once they hit the GAN limit. It can go back to taxpayers, or it can go to school districts. And so obviously with the election season, the year prior, he gave the $600. And then this year, $400 back in gas rebate. I believe it was $400. But that's because GAN limit was hit. School districts also have a GAN limit because they're a local government agency. So we're not allowed to exceed a certain threshold. We have not hit that. And so this is or you guys would be approving our GAN limit as is through a resolution. Roll call.
After the miracle of food service, $250,000 net revenue,
Yeah.
what combination of factors, if any, do you see that we would push up against the ceiling of our GAN limit?
Wow, very good question. There's I can't remember the exact law behind it, but there's basically there's a thing that school districts cannot hit it unless, and I don't want to speak on it if I'm not 100% sure, but if school districts cannot hit it if the state does not exceed it by a certain amount. And this year the state did not exceed it by a certain amount. And I almost think that if this year the state did not exceed it by a certain amount, they will never exceed it. But so anyway,
Okay.
there's a lot of, it's mostly economic. There's 4 economic indicators at the state level, and I don't know exactly what they are, but it has to do with personal income tax and, the big 3 taxes. Anyway.
Okay, well, I'll make a motion for approving resolution 2023-04.
I'll second the motion. I'd like to open it up to anybody that is out there. I have 4 people.
We never talked this much about money, Laura. This is,
Seeing that no one is energetically running up to say hi to Austin, I will close public comment and bring it back for it's a vote, so Jen will have to,
Rich Carnation,
yes?
Eric Heights,
Yes.
Stephanie Ahmad,
Yes.
Bill Adams.
Yes.
Jackson Caligari.
Yes.
Thank you, Austin.
Thanks, guys. Jackson, I want to report next week.
It's been great. By the way, I just have a quick question. Was the Jarvis scan? Was that what it was? Okay. Okay, we are now at the last 6.5, consideration ratification of process to provide greater flexibility in local teacher amendments in grades K through 12 pursuant to California Ed Code 44258.3 from our esteemed
Rich,
director.
if I could interrupt, we are after 9:30. I'll make a motion to approve for another 15 minutes,
second.
since we don't have that in the new rules yet.
I was so mesmerized by Austin's presentation, I didn't notice that time flew by so fast. So, So
I
you made a
motion to extend 15 minutes.
Second.
if we need it.
Second, all those in favor?
Yes?
Aye.
Aye,
Aye. Just for the record of the notes.
builded.
Sorry, Pete. You didn't get started yet.
No worries. Yeah, thank you, Rich, for introducing. So I want to talk a little bit about alternative teaching assignments. It was mentioned earlier in this meeting today that we have staffing shortages, and we're trying to be creative in how we cover those staffing shortages. So there are a lot of alternative teaching assignments. So I'm going to hit you with some of Rich's all-time favorites. We're going to do some acronyms. You got the TCC, you got the STSP, you got the GEL LAP and a PIP. So provisional intern permit, you have a short-term staffing permit, you have a general education assignment teaching permit, and you also have a temporary teaching certificate. So all of these are California Department of Education and or SCO generated, which means they're time consuming, which means there's paperwork associated with them, and which is good because by law, we have to have credentialed teachers in our classrooms to teach our kids, which is exactly what we want. The assignment option I want to talk about tonight, but before I get there, I just want to say it's the intent of Windsor Unified School District to facilitate an adoption of a new board policy to bring in a new alternative assignment option. And it's something that we can do locally. So all of the other processes, which of course take a little time, kind of slow us down. So the key takeaways from the short presentation I have is that this is going to allow fully credentialed teachers. So these are teachers who already have teaching. They have to teach for a certain amount of years. They are fully credentialed to allow them to legally teach outside their credentialed area. It's in adherence with 44258.3, which is Ed Code, and it allows us to capitalize on our existing professionals and gives the district some flexibility in covering the gaps that we currently have. The steps are outlined in the document which I've provided, but a short summary is an admin would identify the need. Then the admin would make sure that they would review to make sure that no one on campus or in the district that can provide that service has the proper credential. The admin identifies a teacher who may be qualified. They ask that teacher to then apply to have this permit. And then if the teacher petitions with that option, the site and the district together create a panel of experts to validate their fitness for service. So it can be a number of different options. They give a number of options, but it's successful teaching experience, portfolio, oral interviews, practical experience, observation of a teacher, a growth plan. It can be a test. There are a number of items which can be agreed upon here and then brought to the sites as the agreed upon plan that we would implement if we move forward. So we are interested as a district, we're interested in using this option, and hopefully following some board discussion and decision, the board would approve a new board policy and implement the procedures as listed so we can use that option moving forward.
And a practical example would be, we have a special education teacher potentially who has taught the same curriculum as a math teacher or a language arts teacher. We need a language arts or a math section. Normally that special education teacher could not pick up that section. With this, we could give them whatever. They go through a process and we say, yes, you are qualified. They could legally then teach that section.
I think this is awesome. This is, when I was at Golden Gate going to school, most of my professors or teachers were actually subject matter experts that were not teachers. They were attorneys and whatever that were out practicing. And we got great education from these people, actually real life examples of things that were going on. So when I saw this, I was like, oh, this is smart. Besides, we have a lot of teachers that are great at teaching, but they may have got their credential in something, but their hobby or their outside interest has made them an expert in another area, or two or three. And so the one thing that wasn't clear about is are we going, if we pass this, are we going to also, we may have a lot of resources with our teachers that we don't even know that they're experts in, that they could teach other things that they may want to, maybe they teach 5 periods or 4 periods of their main credential, and they might pick up 1 or 2 classes of something different. Are we going to build a database of teachers who want to do that in advance? Or are we going to wait till there's a need and then we're going to find out?
Honestly, it'd be a need.
Okay,
We're going to try to find a credentialed teacher first.
okay.
This is a similar situation. It's kind of a last resort almost. It's similar to it. I work in a small district, and there's a rule called the small necessary school. And so, we have 25 staff members. We can't just hire another teacher to do 1 period necessarily. There was a year that I had an open spot. Potentially, they moved something around for me, and I taught 8th grade algebra. I never have an algebra credential, but I'm good at math, and I can teach well. And so I taught actually 2 full years of 8th grade algebra under that small necessary school, very similar to what Pete's talking about now. And I was asked to do that. I was, they made sure I was qualified. I had looked at my college units, and I had, 27 units of math curriculum or something in the past, but I didn't get a credential in that. And so this is one of those options that allows for something similar to what I'm talking about. I support that.
So I've heard about teachers in our district anecdotally teaching under exceptions, but having a time limit of how long they can do that and then having to move to another area. Would this have some kind of time limit, or does this allow that to kind of go on more indefinitely? Just wondering if those work in conjunction at all.
If they stay in the same job, teaching the same subject matter that they were found to be proficient in, they can continue to use this permit. If they move campuses or are teaching a different subject, they have to go through the process again.
Different campus or different district?
The way it outlines it, if you move, it sounded like even if you were teaching something similar, but I mean, I can't.
It must be the exact same class, Pete. That's how I read it.
Yeah.
If you change the
Same
class in
class.
any way, you got to
redo it
through the process.
Okay.
But it's,
But if you
again,
don't,
local.
you're validated to do it, to Stephanie's
Correct.
question, which is good. I think this is right down our strategy of let's look for local solutions and the agility that we like doing. Let's do this. Let's get ahead of it, figure out, thank you for bringing this to us, that this is another, agile workaround that we can apply and get going.
Great.
I'm just going to go ahead and give props to Amy Ziegler, who found this while researching something else. So she brought it to me, and so
Thank you,
thanks
Amy.
to her. Yep.
Very good. I don't see anybody in the public,
Come on down, Brad.
but Brad, if you
I
have
got
something to
hummus.
say, or anybody else? Okay, seeing nobody, I'll bring it back to the board. Is this a resolution?
No.
It's board policy. So just so you all are aware, this is not timely at this point. It was initially, but it's no longer required to pass tonight because we had some situation we're working with. You can pass it tonight, or we can bring it back if you want to make any changes.
Let's pass it.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve this 6.5.
I'll second the motion. I think it's a good program,
Okay.
potentially.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none. All right, passes. All right, now 7.1, any future school agenda items that anybody wants to bring up that's not on the list right now?
I think the one
Yes.
that was earlier.
Stephanie?
I want to bring up that I would like us to do more campus visits. And this is not really school board agenda items, so
No,
it
it
might
is.
not be the right place, but maybe it is.
It is.
Okay, I'd like to just get them on the calendar,
Okay.
like things where we, if we're working, maybe we can't on that particular day, but if it's kind of a standing thing, either once a month, once every 2 months, where we go, maybe hit every campus throughout the year could be the goal. Because I think with COVID just having happened, we really need to get out there and be more visible this year. So I'd like to see that happen sooner rather than later.
For food, I realize now, there are 3 times a day we can have feeds at different campuses. In all
Yes.
seriousness, I think.
This is a
stop brunch.
food-driven board.
Absolutely.
And leadership team, from what I
It's
can tell.
because Sharon's here now.
Except Sharon falls asleep when she eats during the meeting, I'll just say. 'Cause
I've been so awake the whole time.
That's why I gave her the
I do
chocolate.
want to say, as a former principal in this district, I always appreciated it when board members would come to visit because I felt like there was interest and there was a recognition of what was actually going on the campuses. So I like that idea a lot.
A real serious question. You like them to come, but did you like advance notice that they were coming, or did you mind if they
Yes.
just kind of
Yeah.
showed
No,
up?
I liked advance notice because I liked showing off,
Okay.
our
Right.
school and what we're doing and the really amazing things.
Okay.
And I think that's why we need it on the calendar, because I think none of us want to go and freak anyone out either. When there's like so much going on, also be like, hi, I'm here just to stop by. And
But
Like-
we have to actually agendize it.
like
'cause
you
it's a
can
board
literally
meeting.
see someone like,
Yeah.
Well, and just so I'm clear, were you thinking as a group or as
Yeah.
much of a group as we could get?
yeah, that's what I was thinking.
So I think agendizing it, that would be good to at least show up. I do think we should take our
Yeah.
meetings on the road. I think we should, I'd like to have us meet one time this year on the stage at Windsor High School. We could do it one of these times and let the digital arts people put us on camera and get on channel 27. I know
I would like a tour of Maddie.
yeah,
Yeah.
I've been
that
by
would
there,
be
I walked the
great.
dog over there, but I haven't been inside the classrooms.
But I also thought, when I saw your notion about that, to really have us institutionalize, getting us out every couple of months to these various schools that we are liaisons to. I think some of it, I know, I'm not as good as that. If there's something interesting, Eric and I will be working the football field tomorrow, but, it's hit and miss, and I think, again, it's not that big a deal to create a dog and pony show burden to the staff and the principal if occasionally board members with the superintendent show up to say, look, love to have you highlight what you can, but you don't got to do really anything special for us, right?
Let us
And
wander
if we routinize it a little bit, it then, once we get over the first few, I think, is say, hey, great, someone's here. This is a nice thing, right? And, the teachers aren't afraid, or the student leaders aren't afraid. Okay, bend our ear, we're walking around, we're here, tell us what you think. And I think that would be good, to do that acknowledgement and show,
Or maybe we shadow Jackson's daily schedule someday.
wouldn't that be fun?
Oh my
sitting there?
gosh, we have to do that. Yes, all of us.
You'd be a pariah. They'd think we were probation officers or something.
Well,
You would be so cool, Jackson.
Jackson already thinks he's cool.
You see that?
All the pictures I saw of Jackson on
Homecoming
social
king,
media
but I will
at the
say,
homecoming,
yeah.
were you like is there a cutout of you or something? All the girls were coming up and getting their picture with your cutout, or was that you?
I try to be available to the public as much as possible, so.
A true
do my
public
best.
servant. Wow. I
And wouldn't
love
you
it.
know, we're about out of time.
So much for your prom dates, Jackson.
So basically, in a nutshell, we basically, if we did twice a year, each campus, that would kind of like.
Once a month or
Yeah, something to that effect. Plus, we also are liaisons to each school, so we should be,
That's what I thought you meant.
Yeah.
right.
Having the liaison.
Oh,
No, we're talking about full
liaisons,
team.
they always,
Maybe we can do once as a group and make sure we
Ideally,
do
once
at
to
least
always,
once
yeah.
as a liaison.
The-
Like
the-
that could be our bare
the reason why,
minimum.
because last night I heard somebody say, as trustees, what are you guys we loved it when so-and-so would come by and bring donuts unannounced and all this other stuff. And we're like, are we supposed to show up unannounced? I mean, do you want glazed? Do you want custard filled? Or what is it that all? You guys are all saying no. You weren't the ones asking the question. It was the people that were voting. So anyhow, so as liaisons, we should be doing that anyway. But as a board, maybe we just have a couple times where we can all go as a group. Sometimes we can make it, sometimes you can't.
I think the best model is once each semester as a group. It would make the most sense. We agendize it. We have certain times where at each school site, and then we move together as a team. It would make the most sense to prepare our staff for.
Very good.
So can we get something on the calendar for October?
Probably, yeah.
Jen, if you could, on the future school board agenda, we have the calendar that has all that, but we used to have a parking lot list.
We have it. It's there.
It's at the bottom.
Did I miss it?
Oh, yeah, it's,
Well,
It's there.
it's the only two things on the parking lot have already been scheduled.
Oh, you know what? I saw this as a calendar. I didn't go to the very bottom. I'm sorry.
read every other page, too.
Well, there was only two of them, but, I missed that one.
We'll get this done.
All righty.
This isn't hard to do.
Thank you very much. All righty, I think with that said, we are at
Time limit, yeah.
8.1.
Well, and before we adjourn,
Okay.
what did you want to do?
Well, we got one more. Are we going to add the one item to the parking lot? You wanted to have a report about field trips and kind of what the costs would look like.
Oh, yeah. Yes, please. Yes, thank you for remembering that. That was so long ago. I was just going to say, we covered a lot of ground today. And for those of you who are working, a lot of those were the instructional people. Tell them thank you. I mean, I know they're here. Delightful thing that Jen's bring chow. I don't know who's going to have a presentation that has to bring recorders for everybody to play next time or something to amuse us. But we had a lot of substance, and I was sort of looking at Rich because we were going awful long on those 5 report discussion items, but we covered a lot of policy strategy things. And we were wondering, in closed session before we came out, we used to have 2 meetings, and we'd fill them up too. I think because we can fill it with conversations. Now I think we realize that this is the only time, for anybody who's still watching at home, that we can deliberate like this, and amongst us, and really with you 5, to do that. And I feel it's value added. I know it's gone late, but it's helpful, right? And when everybody's up to speed, our level of dialogue and discussion is pretty broad and wide ranging, sometimes crazily like, but again, I sometimes go to other school districts and there's the antipathy of unions and the people don't talk to each other. They scream at each other from the dais and at their staff, and we don't do that. And I think we need to celebrate that we don't. Put that in the PSA next time you're on the radio to say, come here and bring your kids and come to a meeting. They're fun. We serve chow. So.
And I'd like to echo what Laura and Brad didn't say it tonight, but he said it before. I'd just like to echo it. I think that we've gotten off well. I think that they're coming with the right attitude, really trying to work together with the district. So for all of those individuals still up watching our board meeting, just make it clear that I'm pretty happy with how WDEA is representing themselves.
Very good. Well, with that said, I'm going to introduce Pete to a new acronym called MDIR. And with that, I would like to make a motion that we adjourn our meeting.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. My dinner is ready.
I've been waiting.
All right.
Okay.